Dad, Natalie's parents need the room more than you do. Jared said it at my own dining table. Bradley and Michelle Powers sat across from me, dressed like guests. Natalie had used Diane's good serving bowls. She'd even put fresh flowers in the blue pitcher we kept over the refrigerator. Everyone was waiting for me to make it easy. My name is Dale Quinn, and I'm 66 years old. What city are you listening from? I've lived in Clarksville, Tennessee, most of my life. The house is on Redbud Lane, near the end of a quiet loop where people wave without stopping. It isn't fancy. It's a 3-bedroom brick place with a wide driveway and a detached workshop behind it. That night, my bedroom door was visible from the table. Natalie had left it open. I could see a stack of cardboard boxes against my dresser. She had written, Dale, workshop on the side of one with a black marker. I hadn't packed those boxes. Jared kept his eyes on his plate. Natalie reached for her water and said, Nobody's trying to push anybody out. We're talking about a temporary adjustment. Bradley looked at Michelle. Michelle looked down at her napkin. That was when I realized they hadn't come for supper. They had come expecting a room. I'll come back to that table because what happened there changed every relationship in the house. But to understand why my own son thought he could ask that question, you have to understand how I'd spent the previous 6 years answering smaller ones. It started in 2020 when Jared lost his job. He'd been managing inventory for a building supplier outside Nashville. The company cut his position during a bad quarter, and he never saw it coming. He called me on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the workshop cleaning an old breaker panel. Dad, can we stay with you and Mom for a while? How long is a while? I don't know. A couple months maybe? Have you talked to your mother? She said she wanted to talk to both of us. That meant Diane had already decided we could help, but she wanted rules before feelings took over. Diane was good that way. She could love somebody and still ask where they planned to put their wet towels. That evening, the 4 of us sat at the same dining table. Jared looked exhausted. Natalie looked embarrassed and angry about being embarrassed. We don't need charity, she said. Diane folded her hands. Good. We aren't offering charity. Natalie glanced at Jared. I said, You need somewhere to land. We have room. We can pay something, Jared said. You can buy groceries when you're able, I told him. Diane looked at me. That isn't what we discussed. I knew that look. She went to the little desk beside the kitchen and returned with 3 pages. She'd typed them herself at the public library because our printer kept leaving a gray stripe down the middle. At the top, she had written, month-to-month occupancy agreement. Jared gave a tired laugh. Mom, are you giving us a lease? I'm giving all of us a way to remember the same conversation. Natalie picked up the pages. You're charging rent? No, Diane said. The rent is 0. Then why do we need this? Because free arrangements are the ones people remember differently. Nobody had much to say after that. The agreement said Jared and Natalie could use the 2 spare bedrooms. We all shared the kitchen, living room, laundry room, and yard. It listed a few plain responsibilities. Clean up after yourself. Don't block the driveway. Tell us before making changes to the house. Diane had attached a handwritten page. She called it her house rule. She read it once slowly. Then she passed the pen to Jared. He signed first. Natalie signed after him. Diane and I signed as the owners. I put our copy in the fireproof box in my workshop. The box held our insurance papers, the deed, appliance receipts, and a few photographs Diane didn't trust to a regular drawer. I slid the agreement into a green folder and forgot about it. At the time, it felt almost silly. Jared and Natalie moved in that weekend. A couple of months became 6. 6 became a year. Jared found contract work, but nothing steady. Natalie was doing appointment scheduling from a laptop. Between both incomes, they could have managed a small apartment if nothing went wrong. Something always went wrong. Their car needed a transmission. Jared had dental work. Natalie's company cut her hours for 2 months. Every time they got close to leaving, another expense came through the door. Diane never complained about them staying. She did insist they remain guests who contributed, not owners waiting for us to disappear. If Natalie left laundry in the washer, Diane set it in a basket. If Jared parked behind me, she made him move. When I offered to replace the carpet in their rooms, Diane said, Ask them what they're saving first. She wasn't cold. She was careful. Then, in 2022, Diane died. There isn't a clean way to say that part. She got sick, and then she got sicker. By the end, our house ran on pill times, soup, clean sheets, and whispered phone calls. Jared drove her to several appointments. Natalie handled some meals. They weren't absent. I want to be fair about that. After the funeral, the house went quiet in a strange way. 3 people still lived there, but every room sounded empty. For weeks I woke before dawn because I thought I heard Diane turning on the kettle. Her oak key rail still hung beside the kitchen door. She'd bought it at a craft fair soon after we moved into the house. It had 4 brass hooks and a small red flower painted in one corner. Diane used to touch the bottom hook before leaving. She said it helped her remember whether she had her keys. After she died, her ring stayed there. I couldn't move it. Jared started mowing the yard without being asked. Natalie brought me coffee some mornings. For a while, we acted like people holding up the same damaged roof. I believed living together was helping us. Maybe it was at first. The trouble was that I didn't know how to be needed halfway. I'd been a residential electrician most of my working life. If a switch failed, I fixed it. If an outlet sparked, I found the loose connection. Problems made sense when they had wires. Grief didn't. So I kept fixing things. When Natalie's washer stopped draining, I spent half a Saturday pulling out a sock caught in the pump. When her office chair cracked, I reinforced the bottom with a piece of plywood. When Jared's truck battery died, I drove across town with jumper cables. They thanked me. Then they began expecting me. Dale, the dryer's making that sound again. Dad, can you look at the garage light? Dale, the internet cuts out in the back bedroom. It felt good to have an answer. That's the part I was slow to admit. I wasn't only helping them. I was using usefulness as a way to stay included. If Natalie called my name from the hall, I didn't have to sit in the kitchen and notice Diane's empty chair. By the spring of 2026, I had given up more of the house than I realized. Jared and Natalie used both spare bedrooms. One was their bedroom. The other became Natalie's office and storage room. Their food filled most of the refrigerator. Their shoes stayed by both doors. Their boxes lined one wall of the garage. Natalie had hung family photographs in the hallway, mostly pictures from the Powers side. One afternoon, I came home with a new ceiling fan for the workshop. A stack of pamphlets was spread across the kitchen counter. The top one showed a smiling gray-haired man watering flowers. Across the front, it said, "Comfortable, independent, living near family." I picked it up. Natalie came in carrying a laundry basket. "What's this?" She barely looked. "What's what?" "These pamphlets." "Oh, those." She set the basket down. "My mom picked them up somewhere. She gives me all kinds of junk. Why are they on my counter?" I was sorting papers. I opened the pamphlet. It listed furnished studios, prepared meals, transportation, and weekly housekeeping. "You looking for a place for your parents?" Natalie laughed, but it came a second late. "No, they're not ready for something like that." "Who is?" "I don't know, Dale. It's an advertisement." She gathered the pamphlets and shoved them beneath a grocery flyer. "You don't have to inspect everything I leave in the kitchen. I asked a question, and I answered." She picked up the basket and carried it toward the hallway. That evening, Jared came into the workshop while I was installing the fan. He held the ladder steady even though I hadn't asked. Natalie said, "You got weird about some brochures." I asked why they were on the counter. "She thinks you were accusing her of something." "Was there something to accuse her of?" "Dad." I tightened the mounting bracket. He waited. Finally, he said, "Her parents have been under pressure. Their rent's going up. That doesn't explain the brochures. They don't mean anything." "Then why are we talking about them?" Jared rubbed the side of his face. "Can we just not turn every little thing into a problem?" That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was cruel. Jared didn't say cruel things directly. He had a way of making the person asking a question feel responsible for the discomfort it caused. I looked down from the ladder. "Did Natalie tell you what the pamphlets were for?" She said they were mixed in with her mother's papers. "That's not what I asked." He released the ladder. "I've got an early morning." Then he walked back toward the house. The next week, my electric bill arrived by email, but the paper copy didn't come. I still received paper bills. Diane had preferred them, and I'd never changed the habit. I kept each one in a wooden tray until it was paid. I checked the mailbox twice. Nothing. A few days later, my insurance statement was missing too. I asked Natalie because she worked near the front window. "Have you been getting the mail?" "Sometimes." "Did you see an electric bill?" "You get that online. I also get it on paper." She kept typing. "Maybe they stopped sending it." "And my insurance statement?" "I wouldn't know." I stood by her office door. The room had once been where Diane kept her sewing table. Now it held 2 monitors, shipping boxes, and a metal filing cabinet I'd never seen before. "Where do you put the mail?" "On the kitchen counter." "It hasn't been there." She stopped typing. Are you saying I'm hiding your mail? I'm asking where you put it. I just told you. I nodded and went outside. At first I thought I was being suspicious because of the pamphlets. A missing bill could be an error. 2 missing envelopes could still be an error. Then I noticed a white envelope inside Natalie's office wastebasket. I wasn't searching her trash. It was sitting on top, visible from the doorway. My name showed through the plastic window. I picked it up. It was a notice from the electric company confirming that my paper billing preference had been changed. The request had been made through the household account. I carried the notice into the kitchen. Natalie was rinsing a coffee mug. Did you change my billing preference? She turned off the water. I cleaned up the account settings. My account settings. The bills come to the house. I'm usually the one who brings them in. That doesn't make them yours. She put the mug in the drying rack. You're making this sound sinister. I was helping. Did I ask you to? No, Dale. You didn't ask me to save paper. I looked at the envelope again. Do you have any of my mail? She crossed her arms. There might be a few things in the office. Bring them out. Her face changed. Not much, but enough. I'm working. Then I'll wait. She stood there for a few seconds. Then she went down the hall. She returned with my insurance statement, a bank envelope, and 2 pieces of ordinary mail. All had been opened except the bank envelope. The insurance one tore when I opened mine, she said. Our names aren't similar. It was an accident. I took the mail. Jared came in through the garage door while we were standing there. What happened? Natalie answered before I could. Your father thinks I'm stealing his mail. I didn't say that. That's exactly what you're implying. Jared looked at the envelopes in my hand. Nat? Why did you have those? I bring in everybody's mail. That wasn't his question, I said. Jared went quiet. Natalie turned back to the sink. I'm not doing this. She walked out of the kitchen. Jared watched her leave, then looked at me. She shouldn't have opened it. No, I'll talk to her. Don't talk around it. Tell her to stop. He gave me a short nod. I wanted to believe that settled the matter. The next morning, I drove to the post office before my first service call. I showed my identification and asked whether anyone had filed a forwarding request in my name. The clerk checked. No forwarding order, she said. Just a delivery preference change through the sender. That was one useful answer. My address was still my address. I sat in my truck and called the electric company. I restored paper billing and added a verbal password to the account. Then I did the same with the insurance company. When I got home, I put a small locking mailbox inside the workshop. It wasn't dramatic. It cost less than a decent pair of wire cutters. I carried the recovered envelopes out there and unlocked the fireproof box. The green folder was still beneath the deed. I touched the edge of Diane's handwritten page, then closed the box without reading it. For the first time since she died, I understood why she had insisted we all sign our names. I left the box open for a moment and looked around the workshop. Most of my life was represented in that room somehow. My first tool belt hung from a nail near the door. Diane's garden shears were still on the shelf above the sink. Jared's old bicycle pump sat behind a cabinet, even though he hadn't owned a bicycle in years. The house had changed around me. The workshop hadn't. When I went inside, Jared was making sandwiches. Did you talk to Natalie? I asked. He spread mustard across a slice of bread. I did. And? She understands. That doesn't tell me anything. He put the knife down. I told her not to open your mail. Did you tell her not to keep it? Yes. Did you know she changed my billing? No. He answered quickly enough that I believed him. Did you ask her why she did it? She thought she was helping. That's what she said. Well, that's probably what happened. I looked toward the hallway. Natalie's office door was closed. You don't sound sure. Jared lowered his voice. Dad, she handles paperwork. That's just how she is. She handles her paperwork. I know. Then say that to her. I did. I waited. He picked up the knife again. She's upset. Maybe give it a day. That was the pattern. Natalie crossed a line. Jared acknowledged the line privately. Then he asked me to make her comfortable with being corrected. I knew it, but I still said, all right. The next morning, the coffee was already made when I came into the kitchen. Natalie stood by the stove in her robe. She was turning pieces of bacon with a fork. There's a clean mug beside the pot, she said. Thank you. She didn't mention the mail, neither did I. Jared came in and sat at the table. Smells good. Natalie put a plate in front of him. Then she set one in my usual place. It was such a small thing, bacon, eggs, and toast. I could have made it myself. Still, the tightness in the kitchen eased. I sat down. Natalie poured more coffee and asked, "Are you working today? I've got a ceiling fan replacement near Madison Street. Could you look at something before you go?" There it was. She opened the cabinet beneath the sink. A little water had collected around the base of the dishwasher hose. "How long has it been leaking?" I asked. "I noticed it last night." "Did you turn off the supply?" I didn't know which valve. I got a flashlight from the utility drawer. The clamp had loosened. It was a simple fix. Jared kept eating while I lay on the floor. Natalie crouched beside me. "Do you need anything?" "Small nut driver." She brought me a Phillips screwdriver, the other one. She returned with the whole kitchen drawer organizer. I found the nut driver myself, tightened the clamp, and wiped the water with an old towel. "That should hold," I said. Natalie smiled. "I knew you'd figure it out." She touched my shoulder as I stood. The mail was gone from her mind. The breakfast made sense now. I saw that clearly, but I also enjoyed the room being friendly again. That bothered me more than the leaking hose. A few days later, I came home and found half the front closet stacked in the living room. My winter coats lay across the couch. 2 boxes of boots were on the rug. Diane's old raincoat was folded on top. Natalie came down the hall with an empty plastic bin. "What happened here?" "I'm organizing the closet." "Why?" "We can barely get anything in there." I opened the closet door. Her coats filled one side. Jared's jackets filled the other. Several tote bags hung from the shelf supports. My things had been removed completely. "Where are mine going?" She pointed toward the garage. "I thought we could put an outdoor wardrobe beside the freezer." "You thought my coats should go in the garage. You use that door most of the time." "I use the kitchen door." "You also come through the workshop." I picked up Diane's raincoat. "This stays inside?" "Fine. Put it in your room." I looked at her. She exhaled. "Dale, it's a closet." "I'm trying to make the entry look less cluttered. My coats weren't clutter. Nobody said they were." "You took them all out?" "Because I was sorting." "Were you planning to ask me?" She set the bin down harder than necessary. I didn't think moving a coat required a family conference. I put Diane's raincoat on a hanger. Then I moved Natalie's tote bags from the closet rod and hung the coat in their place. "This isn't a conference." She watched me return my 2 winter coats. "You're being territorial. It's my coat closet too." I didn't say it wasn't. I carried my boots to the workshop. I wish I could say I put everything back. I didn't. I reclaimed 3 hangers and gave up the rest because I was tired of the conversation. That evening, Jared found me replacing a worn plug on an extension cord. "Natalie said you got mad about the closet." I put 3 coats back. "She's trying to organize the house. She can organize around things that aren't hers." He leaned against the workbench. "You know, when you say it like that, it sounds like you don't think she belongs here." I set down the screwdriver. "How long has she lived here?" 6 years. "Then I must think she belongs somewhere." "That's not what I mean." "I know what you mean." He looked toward the workshop door. "She lost her own place. That still gets to her. She and you moved here together. It feels different to her. So, my coat goes to the garage? I'm not talking about the coat. Neither is she." He pulled out the stool by my workbench and sat down. "Mom always knew how to handle this stuff." The words landed badly, though. I don't think he meant them that way. "Your mother would have put the coats back herself. She also made people feel welcome." I stared at him. Jared looked down at the concrete floor. "I didn't mean you don't." "Yes, you did." "No, I meant she was good at smoothing things over." "She didn't smooth things over. She said what was expected." "Okay. She didn't ask one person to accept less, so another person could avoid hearing no." He stood. "I came out here to help." "With what?" He didn't have an answer. After he left, I plugged in the extension cord and tested it. The little orange light came on. I sat on the stool he'd been using. Diane had made people feel welcome. Jared was right about that. She remembered how Bradley took his coffee and which salad dressing Michelle preferred. She kept a spare phone charger in the guest room. She made clean towels appear before anyone asked. But she never confused welcome with surrender. I had done that after she died. The following Friday, Bradley and Michelle came for supper. Natalie made baked chicken, green beans, and potatoes. I arrived in the kitchen as she was setting the table. "Can you put another leaf in?" she asked. "For 5 people? I like the extra room." The table opened from the middle. The leaf was stored in the hall closet behind a stack of Natalie's storage bins. I moved the bins, carried the leaf in, and fitted it between the 2 halves. Then Natalie handed me a loose dining chair. This one wobbles. Has it been wobbling long? I noticed it last time Mom was here. I turned the chair over. One corner brace had split. This needs glue and a clamp. Can you get it done before they arrive? They'll be here in 20 minutes. So, is that a no? It's a chair, Natalie. Use another one. She pressed her lips together. There aren't 5 matching ones. Bradley won't inspect the chairs. It's not for Bradley. I almost asked who it was for. Instead, I carried the chair to the workshop. I glued the brace, set a clamp, and brought in a folding chair from the garage. Natalie looked at it. You're joking. It holds a person. I'll sit there, I said. Her expression softened immediately. Are you sure? It's fine. When Bradley and Michelle arrived, I took their coats. Natalie hung both in the front closet. She put Bradley's jacket where my brown work coat had been. During supper, Bradley talked about the rent increase at their apartment. They want another $200 a month, he said. Same carpet, same noisy air conditioner. Michelle cut a potato in half. We haven't decided what we're doing. You've got time, Jared said. Our lease ends in a few months, Bradley replied. That sounds like time until it isn't. Natalie reached across the table and touched her mother's wrist. You won't be without options. Michelle gave her a grateful smile. I assumed Natalie meant they could find another apartment. Clarksville had gotten more expensive, but places were available. Bradley looked around the dining room. You've done a lot with this house, Nat. Mostly paint and furniture. She's made it feel like home, Michelle said. I sat on the folding chair and felt one of its metal feet shift against the floor. Natalie glanced at me. Dale lets me handle the inside. He'd rather be in the workshop. That true? Bradley asked. I like the workshop. Natalie smiled. See? I took a drink of water. Liking one room had somehow become not caring about the others. After dinner, Bradley followed me outside to look at the new ceiling fan. He stood beneath it while the blades turned. This is a good setup, he said. It works for me. You spend a lot of time out here? Most days. He examined the workbench. Probably nice to get away from everybody. I don't think of it that way. He nodded, though I could tell he'd expected a different answer. Inside, Natalie and Michelle were talking quietly in the kitchen. I heard my name as we came through the door. Then they stopped. Michelle smiled at me. That workshop is almost a little apartment. It doesn't have a bathroom, I said. Natalie opened the dishwasher. Mom didn't mean literally. I didn't take it literally. Jared began gathering plates. Nobody explained why they had been discussing it. After they left, I folded the metal chair and carried it toward the garage. Jared followed me. Dad, you could have used one of the regular chairs. Then the set wouldn't match. He gave me a tired look. You know she gets anxious when her parents come over. I know. She wants things to look nice. I know that too. He took the chair from my hand. I'll put it away. It was an ordinary gesture. He was carrying a chair 10 feet. Still, I nearly thanked him like he'd done me a favor. I stopped myself. Why did your mother-in-law think the workshop was like an apartment? Jared kept walking. She didn't. She said it. She was making conversation about something she and Natalie discussed. He set the chair against the garage wall. I don't know what they talked about. Ask. He turned around. Why? Because it involved me. Dad, this is what I mean. You grab one comment and pull at it until everybody's uncomfortable. I asked one question, and I said, I don't know. He walked back into the house. The next morning, I found the repaired dining chair outside the workshop door. The clamp was still attached. No note, no request. I finished the repair anyway. I sanded the dried glue, tightened the other braces, and polished the scratches with furniture oil. When I carried it inside, Natalie was drinking coffee at the table. Oh, good, she said. You fixed it. Yes. She stood and tested the chair with both hands. It feels solid. It is. Thank you. I waited to see if she would mention the mail, the closet, or what Michelle had said. She didn't. Instead, she pointed toward the laundry room. The dryer's making a squeal now. I looked at the chair, then at her. Are you asking me to repair it? She seemed surprised. I thought you'd want to know. That's not what I asked. She tucked her hair behind one ear. Would you please look at the dryer? It was the first direct request she'd made in weeks. Yes, I said. After lunch, she nodded. There was a small satisfaction in making her ask. There was also something worse beneath it. I'd still said yes before I knew what the job required. I went to the workshop and opened my tool bag. Then I stood there with my hand on the zipper. Nobody had forced me to repair every appliance. Nobody had made me surrender most of the closet. I'd done those things because being useful brought me back into the kitchen. Once I saw that, I couldn't pretend the pattern belonged only to Natalie and Jared. I closed the tool bag and went back inside. Natalie was still at the table. "I'll need you to show me the sound," I said. "The dryer squeals when it starts. Does it stop? After a minute, is there anything in it now?" "A load of towels." We went to the laundry room. She turned the dryer on. The drum began turning, and a high squeal came from the back. I switched it off. "Probably an idler pulley." "Can you fix that?" "If I can get the part." "When? I'll check Monday." She looked annoyed. "What are we supposed to do until Monday? Use the dryer. Turn it off if the sound gets worse. You usually keep spare parts. I keep electrical parts. I'm not an appliance warehouse." She folded her arms. "I was just asking." And I answered. "I left the dryer alone for the weekend." That sounds minor. It was minor. Still, waiting until Monday was deliberate. I wanted to see what happened when I treated her request like a request instead of an alarm. Nothing terrible happened. The towels dried. The house remained standing. Natalie used the machine 3 more times. On Monday morning, I called an appliance parts store. They had the pulley in stock for $18. I told Natalie where it was. She was eating yogurt at the kitchen counter. "Can you pick it up?" she asked. "I'm working near there tomorrow. I need to wash bedding today." "You can pick it up. I have calls until 4. They're open until 6. She scraped the spoon around the cup. "Fine." That afternoon, she bought the part herself. She left the small box on my workbench with the receipt. I installed it after supper. The repair took about 40 minutes. When I finished, I handed her the old pulley. The bearing wore out. She turned it over in her palm. "So, it wasn't serious?" "It would have failed eventually." "Thanks for fixing it." "Thanks for getting the part." She looked at me as if I'd said something unusual. Then she nodded. That little exchange worked. She had asked directly, bought the part, and waited. I had helped without taking over the entire problem. The next morning, though, she was back to giving instructions without making them sound like instructions. "A woman stopping by at 10, she said. I had just come in from the workshop. "What woman?" "Someone Mom knows." "Does she have a name?" "Paula Bennett." "What does Paula Bennett want?" "She helps families with planning. That covers a lot." Natalie opened the refrigerator. "Mom and Dad have questions about housing. Paula knows about apartments and senior communities." "Then why is she coming here? She's already in this part of town." I poured coffee. "Are Bradley and Michelle coming?" "No. Mom has an appointment, so Paula is coming here to discuss their housing without them." Natalie shut the refrigerator. "You don't have to participate." I didn't say I did. "She may look around a little." "At what?" "The house. General safety things." I set down the coffee pot. "You just said this was about your parents." "It is. Paula does several kinds of consulting. Did you invite her into my house?" "I told her she could stop by." "What did you tell her she was coming to do?" Natalie sighed. "Why does every conversation have to be an interrogation?" I asked what a stranger is doing in my house. "She's not a stranger to my mother. She's a stranger to me." Jared came into the kitchen tying his shoes. "What's going on?" "Your father doesn't want Paula coming." "I didn't say that." "You clearly don't." Jared looked at me. "She's just helping Nat's parents look at options. That's not the whole story she gave me." He glanced at Natalie. "What whole story?" Natalie took her yogurt from the refrigerator. "She might do a quick home assessment while she's here." "For Mom and Dad?" he asked. "For anybody. It's part of what she does." Jared looked confused. I noticed that. He hadn't known about the home assessment. Natalie saw me notice. "It's free," she said. "There's no reason to make it a big deal." I had a service call at 10:30. Normally, I would have left early and stopped for coffee near the job. Instead, I called the customer and asked if 11 would still work. It would. Then I sat at the dining table with my coffee. Natalie moved through the house, picking up things that weren't out of place. She straightened the pillows. She put my newspaper in a drawer. She took a pair of Jared's shoes from beside the garage door and carried them to their room. At 9:55, she came into the dining room. "You're still here?" "Yes." "I thought you had work. I moved it. Why?" "I want to meet Paula." She gave a small shrug. "Okay." The doorbell rang at 2 minutes after 10. Paula Bennett carried a leather folder and a tablet. She wore plain black pants and a green cardigan. She looked around my age, maybe a little younger. Natalie greeted her like they'd spoken several times. "Come in. I'm so glad you could fit us in." "Of course." Paula saw me at the table. "You must be Mr. Quinn. I'm Dale." She reached out and shook my hand. "It's nice to finally meet you." Finally. Natalie stepped between us and took Paula's coat. "Can I get you coffee?" "I'm fine, thank you." Paula sat across from me. Natalie sat beside her. I remained where I was. Paula opened her folder. "This can be very informal. I know people sometimes feel nervous when families start talking about future needs. I'm not nervous. That's good. What future needs are we talking about?" She glanced at Natalie. Natalie smiled too quickly. "Paula, maybe explain the kinds of services you offer." Paula nodded. "I help older adults and their families evaluate living arrangements. Sometimes that means making a home safer. Sometimes it means finding a community with more support. For Bradley and Michelle," Paula paused, "I'm happy to discuss resources for anyone in the family. That wasn't my question." Natalie shifted in her chair. "Dale, let her talk." Paula rested her pen on the folder. "My understanding was that today's visit concerned you." The room got very quiet. I looked at Natalie. She leaned forward. "That's not how I explained it." Paula's expression changed. "I may have misunderstood." "No," I said. "I think I did." Natalie turned toward me. "This is exactly why I didn't want to make it formal. Mom asked Paula whether she could give us some general advice. About me, about the house." Paula looked from one of us to the other. "I don't want to create conflict." "You didn't," I said. "You answered a question." Natalie pressed her fingertips against the table. "She's here now? Can we at least hear what she has to say?" I turned back to Paula. "What were you told?" She closed the folder halfway. "I don't think it would be appropriate to discuss a private referral in front of everyone. The referral is about me, in my house." "You're right." She looked at Natalie. "Would you give us a few minutes?" Natalie stared at her. "I'm the one who scheduled this, and Dale is the person named in the consultation." Natalie pushed her chair back. "Fine." She walked down the hall and closed her office door. Paula waited until we heard the latch. "I was told you're a widower, living with your adult son and daughter-in-law." "That's true." "I was told the house may be becoming difficult for you to manage." "Who told you that?" "The initial referral came through Michelle." Natalie completed the intake call. That connected two things, but not in a way I liked. What did Natalie say I couldn't manage? Paula opened the folder again. She said, "You've become less comfortable handling household paperwork." I thought of the opened insurance statement. "What else?" She mentioned maintenance. "I'm an electrician." "Yes." "I noticed the workshop." "Did she tell you I maintain this house?" "She said you still do some projects." "Some projects." Paula watched my face. "She also said you spend more time alone since your wife died." "That part is true." She expressed concern that you might be isolated. "I live with two people." Living with people doesn't always prevent isolation. That answer was fair, which made the rest harder to dismiss. "What did she ask you to recommend?" "Nothing specific yet." "Today was supposed to be an initial conversation. Did she mention her parents? She said the whole family's housing needs may be changing." I sat back. "What does that mean?" She didn't explain. "Did you ask?" "I planned to ask today." I pointed to the folder. "Is there anything in there that I signed?" "No." "Did I agree to an assessment?" "No." "Then there won't be one. I understand." She pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. "I'm sorry, Dale. I believed you knew I was coming. I knew about 10 minutes before you arrived." Her eyebrows rose. "That isn't what I was told." "What were you told?" "That you were reluctant to discuss it, but had agreed to meet." I looked toward the hallway. Natalie's office door remained closed. "Did Jared speak with you?" "No." "Bradley?" "No." "So Michelle referred you, and Natalie did the rest." "That's correct." I picked up the card. "Thank you for being direct." Paula put her tablet away. "If you ever want information for yourself, call me. But it needs to be your call." "It will be." She stood. I walked her to the door. Before she left, she lowered her voice. "One more thing. The intake notes say the family hoped to have a plan before the end of summer. It was early spring. A plan for what?" She didn't specify. Paula left. I watched her car back out of the driveway. Then I returned to the dining room and put her card in my shirt pocket. Natalie came out of the office. That was humiliating. For who? She made it sound like I was trying to put you somewhere. Were you? No. Then why did she think the appointment was for me? My mother gave her your name, and you completed the intake. Because Mom hates phone calls. Your mother wasn't on the intake. Natalie's cheeks reddened. You were asking me questions about the brochures. Mom thought maybe it would help if someone explained the options. I never asked for options. You complain about being alone. When? She opened her mouth, then closed it. When have I complained to you about being alone? You don't have to say it. Everybody can see it. So, you arranged a consultation. I arranged a conversation. You told her I'd agreed. I said you were willing to listen. I wasn't asked. You would have said no. That's still my answer to give. She looked toward the front door. This could have been useful for all of us. How? Our living situation isn't going to stay the same forever. That was the first completely honest thing she'd said. What change are you expecting? I don't know. You told Paula there should be a plan before the end of summer. Her eyes moved back to mine. She said that? Yes. I don't remember using those words. What words do you remember? She picked up Paula's empty coffee cup, though Paula hadn't accepted coffee. I have to work. Natalie, I'm already late logging in. She carried the clean cup toward the kitchen. I followed her. Does Jared know you scheduled that appointment for me? He knew Paula was coming. He thought she was helping your parents. She is helping my parents. By assessing me? Natalie set the cup beside the sink. You're twisting this. I'm separating it. She walked past me and shut herself in the office. I didn't knock. Instead, I went to the workshop and called Michelle. She answered after several rings. Dale, is everything all right? Paula Bennett just left my house. There was a pause. Oh, you gave her my name. Natalie said you'd been talking about making changes. What changes? I assume she meant you were thinking ahead. Thinking ahead to what? Michelle lowered her voice. She didn't give me details. Did I ever tell you I wanted to leave this house? No. Did Jared? No. Then why did you refer Paula? Because Natalie asked if I knew anyone. Paula helped a friend of mine find a smaller place. I thought you wanted information. I didn't. I'm sorry. I truly thought you knew. Did Natalie say anything about your lease? Another pause. She told you about the increase. At supper. We're looking at several possibilities. Did she connect those possibilities to me? Not directly. That wasn't the same as no. What did she say? Michelle took a breath. She said the family might be able to solve two problems at once. I looked through the workshop window at the back of the house. What two problems? She didn't explain it that way. Those were my words. What did she actually say? She said you had more space than you needed, and we were spending too much on rent. I didn't answer. Michelle rushed to fill the silence. I assumed she had discussed it with you. She hasn't. Then forget I said anything. Bradley and I haven't made a decision. Did you decide not to renew your lease? We're leaning that way. We have to tell the office by the end of next month. There was the deadline Paula hadn't known. Thank you for telling me. Dale, I don't want trouble. Neither do I. When the call ended, I placed Paula's business card beside the green folder. My deliberate choice to stay home had answered one question. The visit hadn't been for Bradley and Michelle. It had been about moving me. What I still didn't know was where Natalie expected me to go, or what she planned to do with the space after I left. I took an unused job notebook from the desk drawer and wrote the date of Paula's visit on the first page. Under it, I wrote the words I remembered exactly. Less comfortable handling household paperwork. Still does some projects. Family housing needs may be changing. Plan before the end of summer. Then I wrote what Michelle had told me about their lease deadline. I didn't know what any of it added up to yet. I only knew the conversations had started without me. I carried the notebook into the house and put it in my bedroom nightstand. Natalie's office door was open. She was on a call, speaking in the pleasant voice she used for work. Jared had left early for a temporary warehouse job. He'd been taking whatever shifts he could get. Some weeks he worked 4 days. Other weeks he worked 1. I made a sandwich and ate at the kitchen counter. When Natalie finished her call, she came into the kitchen. Did you call my mother? Yes. She said you upset her. I asked what she knew. She thought she was helping. That explanation gets used a lot around here. Natalie opened a cabinet and took out a glass. I canceled the consultation. It was already over. I mean, there won't be another one. Good. She filled the glass at the sink. You could have handled that without calling Mom. I could have handled it before Paula arrived, if you'd told me the truth. I did tell you the truth. You said the visit concerned your parents. It does concern them. How? She drank some water. We're all connected, Dale. One person's housing affects everybody else. That still isn't an answer. I don't know what their decision will be. What decision are you asking them to make? I'm not asking them to make one. She put the glass in the sink and walked away. I didn't follow her. That afternoon, I had 3 small service calls. One was a dead outlet behind a refrigerator. One was a bathroom fan that sounded like a lawnmower. The third was a porch light someone had installed with indoor wire. Those problems had answers. I replaced what was damaged, tested my work, and left. When I returned home, my 25-foot tape measure was missing from the hook above the workbench. I checked the truck. It wasn't there. I kept a smaller one in my tool bag, so I knew I hadn't taken the larger one to work. The hook was empty, and a clean outline showed in the dust behind it. I went inside. Natalie was in the hallway carrying a roll of blue painter's tape. Did you take my tape measure? It's in your room. Why? I was checking something. She walked into her office. I went to my bedroom. The tape measure lay on the bed. The blue blanket had been pulled tight, and the pillows were stacked on the chair. A strip of painter's tape marked the floor beside my dresser. Another strip ran along the wall near the window. I picked up the tape measure. Natalie appeared in the doorway. What are these marks? I was measuring. I can see that. She leaned against the frame. Mom has a bedroom set. I wanted to know what would fit. The answer was so direct that I almost missed what she'd admitted. Fit where? Here, in my bedroom. It's the largest room. It's my room. I know that. Then why are you measuring it for your mother's furniture? She stepped inside and pulled one strip of tape from the floor. I'm trying to see what's possible. What's possible is that my furniture stays where it is. Nobody said it had to move today. Is that supposed to make this better? She pulled up the second strip. Mom and Dad can't keep paying what their apartment wants. That's between them and their apartment. Their family. Yes, they need options. Then help them find an apartment. We're trying to think beyond that. I put the tape measure in my back pocket. Did you promise them this room? No. She looked toward the dresser when she said it. Did you tell them they could live here? We've discussed several possibilities. Did one of those possibilities involve me leaving my bedroom? It involved you using the workshop more efficiently. The workshop isn't a bedroom. It could be. It won't be. She crossed her arms. You have a couch out there. I sit on it when I take a break. There's room for a bed. There's room for a table saw, too. That doesn't make it a lumber yard. Why are you being sarcastic? Because you measured my bedroom while I was gone. I didn't touch anything. You planned where your mother's furniture would go. That isn't touching anything. I walked past her. She followed me toward the kitchen. Dale, can we have one practical conversation? Yes, no one else is moving into this house. She stopped. You don't get to make a decision before we've even discussed it. I just did. This affects all of us. It affects my bedroom first. You have an entire workshop. I also have a bedroom, she lowered her voice. Mom and Dad wouldn't be here forever. They aren't moving in temporarily either. You're saying no without hearing the plan. I saw enough of the plan marked on my floor. Her face tightened. You don't care what happens to them. That isn't true. Then what do you expect them to do? They can renew their lease. They can find another apartment. They can make the same choices other adults make. The increase is $200. I heard Bradley. That's nothing to you. It isn't my rent. She stared at me. I knew what was coming before she said it. You don't charge us anything. That's right. So you have no idea what housing costs now. I know what this house costs. Taxes and utilities aren't the same. No, I also pay repairs. She turned away. Everything with you comes back to money. That was such a reversal I had to let it sit for a second. I haven't asked you for money. Exactly. You use that. Use what? You make everybody feel like they owe you. I put both hands on the kitchen counter. Do you feel like you owe me? I feel like I can't suggest anything because it's your house. It is my house. There. That. What should I call it? Our home. It can be your home without becoming your property. She went quiet. I hadn't said it harshly. That seemed to bother her more. Jared came in through the garage about an hour later. Natalie met him before he had taken off his work boots. I heard their voices in the hallway. Then Jared knocked on my bedroom door. I was hanging 2 shirts in the closet. "Can we talk?" "You're already here." He stepped inside. Nat told me what happened. "Which version?" "Dad, come on." I closed the closet. "Did you know she was measuring this room?" "No." "Did you know she was arranging a consultation for me?" "I knew somebody was coming. You thought it was for her parents." "That's what she told me. Now she says it was connected to them." Jared sat on the edge of the chair. "I think she's trying to solve a lot at once. By moving me into the workshop. Nobody's moving you. She measured for her mother's furniture. She shouldn't have done that. But," he rubbed his palms over his work pants, "but maybe we could talk about a temporary setup." "No. You don't even know what I was going to say." "I know what temporary means in this house." He looked at me. "That's not fair. You asked for a couple months 6 years ago. We had setbacks. I know. I helped with most of them. We're grateful. Then respect my answer." He stood and walked to the window. "Bradley's hours got cut. Michelle has health insurance through his job, so they're nervous about him changing work. That's difficult. They're not asking for much. They haven't asked me for anything." He turned around. "Because they think we're working it out." "Who made them think that?" He didn't answer. "Jared?" "Nat probably told her mom we had space. There's a difference between space and permission." "I know. Does Natalie?" He looked toward the hallway. "She wants to help her parents. Then she can help them." "We don't have money. You live here for free. That doesn't mean we have savings. Where does your money go?" His face closed. "I'm not doing this. You brought up money. I came in here to ask whether you could endure an inconvenience for family. Sleeping in my workshop isn't an inconvenience. It would be a few months. You don't know that. They'd contribute." I said no. He walked to the door. Mom would have at least listened. That time, he knew exactly what he was saying. I took Diane's ring from the top of my dresser. I'd moved it there while cleaning the key rail, then hadn't put it back. I held it between my thumb and finger. Your mother listened before she said no. Her answer was still no. Jared looked at the ring. "I didn't mean to bring her into it." "You did." "I'm just saying she cared about keeping family together. So do I." "It doesn't feel like it." He left before I could answer. A few minutes later, the garage door rose. His truck backed out of the driveway. Natalie stayed in her office with the door closed. I returned Diane's ring to the oak rail. It hung from the bottom hook and tapped softly against the wood. Then I noticed 2 cardboard boxes beside the hall closet. They hadn't been there that morning. The top one was open. Inside were 3 of my sweaters, a stack of work shirts, and a framed photograph of Diane and me at a county fair. A strip of white tape ran across the side. In black marker, Natalie had written, "Dale, Workshop." The second box held books from my nightstand and a pair of dress shoes. I carried both boxes back to my bedroom. I returned every shirt to the closet. I put the books beside the bed and the photograph on the dresser. Then I peeled the labels from the cardboard. Natalie stood in the doorway before I finished. "You went through the boxes? They were my things. I was trying to get ahead." "Of what?" She didn't answer. I folded the boxes flat. "You will not pack my belongings again. I didn't damage anything. That isn't the boundary. Then what is? You don't move my property. You don't measure my room. You don't schedule people to assess me. And you don't promise space in this house. I never promised anything. Tell your parents this room isn't available." Her eyes moved toward the flattened boxes. "I'll talk to them. Tell them clearly." I said I'll handle it. That should have been enough. It wasn't. The problem was that calling Michelle myself would expose Natalie's lie and embarrass Jared. Staying quiet gave Natalie control of the message. I had until the end of the next month before Bradley and Michelle had to decide about their lease. I carried the flattened boxes to the garage, but I didn't throw them away. I put them against the wall where I could see them. On Saturday morning, they were gone. Jared's truck was missing, and Natalie's car wasn't in the driveway. Neither had said where they were going. That wasn't unusual. They didn't report their movements to me, and I didn't expect them to. What bothered me was the silence after the boxes. I made coffee, swept the kitchen, and went outside. The flattened cardboard remained where I'd left it. I opened the workshop and checked the fireproof box. The green folder was there. Nothing appeared disturbed. I locked the box and put the key in my pocket instead of returning it to the desk drawer. Around noon, Jared's truck came back. Bradley was in the passenger seat. They unloaded 2 metal shelving units from the bed. The shelves were still wrapped in plastic. I stepped out of the workshop. What are those for? Bradley lowered one end onto the driveway. Garage storage. Whose garage? He smiled uncertainly. This one, I thought. Jared set down his end. Nat found them used. Where are they going? Along the back wall. The back wall held my electrical conduit, an extension ladder, and 2 cabinets of tools. There's no open space there. We can shift some things, Jared said. What things? He looked toward the garage. The old cabinets, maybe. I use those cabinets. All right, we'll figure out another spot. Bradley removed his cap and wiped his forehead. Natalie said you wanted better storage. I didn't say that. He glanced at Jared. Jared picked at the plastic wrapping. She probably meant we needed it. Bradley put his cap back on. I can take them home. You don't have room, Jared said. They can stay in the truck. I looked at the shelves. They were tall enough to hold storage bins. They were also clean, almost new. What are you planning to store? Jared answered too slowly. General stuff. Whose stuff? Everybody's. Bradley cleared his throat. I'm going to let you two sort this out. He walked toward the kitchen door. I waited until he was inside. Did Natalie tell him they could bring things here? No? Then why did he think the shelves belonged in my garage? She said we were reorganizing. For what? Jared gripped the plastic around one shelf. Dad, they may have to downsize. That doesn't answer me. Some of their things might need temporary storage. No, it's 2 shelves. It starts with 2 shelves. He looked toward the workshop wall, where the flattened boxes stood. You're keeping those there to make a point. I'm keeping them where I can see them. Same thing. Take the shelves back. His jaw tightened. Bradley paid for them. Then they're his. He bought them because Nat said we could use them. She didn't ask. I know. Do you? Yes, Dad. I know. He turned the shelves around and loaded them back into the truck. Bradley came outside carrying a glass of water. Not a good time? He asked. We don't have space, Jared said. Bradley looked at me. I could have told him the rest. I could have said his daughter had measured my bedroom and packed my clothes. I could have told him no part of the house was being prepared for him. Instead, I said, You should keep your shelves. He nodded. All right. He didn't look offended. He looked confused. That made the silence harder to defend. After they left, Natalie came out of her office. She'd been home the entire time. You embarrassed my father. I told Jared to return his property. He was trying to help. Help with what? Organizing. For your parents' belongings. They need somewhere to put things if they move. They aren't putting them here. It's a garage, Dale. It's my garage. There's that phrase again. It keeps becoming necessary. She looked past me toward the empty driveway. You could have let the shelves sit there. Then boxes would appear. No, they wouldn't. You packed mine before I agreed to move. Her face hardened. I unpacked them. She went back inside. On Monday morning, she knocked on the workshop door. Her office printer sat in her arms. Can you look at this? I put down the wire stripper I was cleaning. What's wrong with it? It jammed, and now it won't feed. Did you pull the paper out? I tried. Did it tear? I think so. She set the printer on my workbench. I need it for my 10 o'clock call. It was 9:20. Did you ask Jared? He's at work. Did you call support? It's faster if you do it. I looked at her. She understood. Would you please fix the printer? I'll look at it. I unplugged it and opened the rear panel. A torn sheet had wrapped around one of the rollers. Only a corner was visible. I used a pair of tweezers to pull it free. The page tore again. Is there more? Natalie asked. Yes. I rotated the roller by hand. Another section came out. The printing faced me. At first, I saw my name. Then I saw the heading. Petition for appointment of conservator. I stopped turning the roller. Natalie reached for the paper. That's nothing. I moved it out of her reach. My name is on it. It's a sample form. A sample with my name? My mother sent it. For what? Her friend said families should understand all the paperwork. Paula? No. What friend? I don't know her personally. I laid the torn pieces on the workbench. Several lines had been completed. The proposed person needing assistance was me. My address was the Redbud Lane house. The space for the proposed conservator contained Jared's name. He hadn't signed it. No one had. The rest of the page was blank. Does Jared know about this? It isn't real. Does he know? We talked about planning. That isn't an answer. Natalie unplugged the printer cord from the bench. I need the printer. It's not fixed. Give it back. I pulled out the remaining paper. 2 more sheets followed. One was blank. The other contained notes. The words weren't arranged in sentences. Widowed, social isolation, paperwork confusion, unsafe independent repairs, resists family assistance, unrealistic attachment to house. I read them twice. Every item had been built from something true, then turned sideways. I was widowed. I did spend time alone. My mail had been mishandled, but not by me. I repaired houses for a living. I had refused assistance I never requested. The last line was the only one that didn't hide what it meant. I looked at Natalie. Unrealistic attachment to house? She reached for the notes. You weren't supposed to see that. That doesn't answer anything. It was brainstorming. For a court petition, no one is filing it. Why is Jared named? Because he's your son. Does he know? I told you. We've talked about planning. I held the pages against the workbench. What did he agree to? Nothing yet. There it was. Yet. She closed her eyes. I used the wrong word. You used the honest one. I'm worried about you. No, you're worried I won't agree with you. You're becoming rigid. I found my name on a conservatorship form inside your printer. It was sent as information. You typed on it. It's easier to understand a form when you use an example. I'm your example. She looked toward the door. Keep the printer. I don't want your printer. Then throw it away. She walked out. I put the torn pages in the job notebook. Then I finished clearing the roller. The printer worked when I tested it. I carried it inside and left it on the dining table. Natalie's office door was shut. I called Jared. He answered over the noise of a loading dock. I can't talk long. Did you agree to be my conservator? The noise seemed to disappear. What? Your name is on a petition in Natalie's printer. What petition? For a conservatorship over me. Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Did she ask you? No. Did she mention it? A forklift beeped in the background. She asked whether your paperwork was organized. When? Last week. What did you tell her? I said you keep everything in the workshop. Did she ask where? No. I don't think so. Think carefully. I am? Did you tell her about the fireproof box? She already knows there's a box. I looked at the workshop door. Did you tell her where I keep the key? No. His breathing changed. Is this an actual filed petition? I don't know yet. I'm leaving work. No. Finish your shift. Dad. Finish your shift. Come home afterward. I ended the call before he could argue. Then I called the county clerk's office. I told the woman who answered that I needed to know whether a conservatorship case had been filed under my name. She transferred me once. The second person checked. There's nothing under Dale Quinn, she said. Would I be notified if someone filed? Yes. There are formal notice requirements. So, this can't happen without me knowing. You would receive notice. I can't advise you beyond that. That's all I needed. The petition hadn't been filed. That was the useful result. I wrote the time of the call and the answer in my notebook. Then I made copies of the torn pages with the small scanner I used for receipts. I returned the originals to the dining table beside Natalie's printer. She came out while the machine was still warming up. You called Jared. Yes. You had no right to drag him out of work. I told him to stay there. You made him think I filed something. Did you? No. I confirmed that. She looked toward the workshop. You called the courthouse? Yes. Her eyes narrowed. You're documenting me. I'm documenting what happened. That's not healthy. Neither is putting my name on a petition. It was an example, with notes about my behavior. You're proving the notes right. I picked up the notebook. Which note? She didn't answer. I carried it back to the workshop. Jared arrived a little after 5. He came through the workshop instead of the house. Show me. I gave him the copied pages. He read the petition first. Then he read the notes. His face changed when he reached his own name. I never agreed to this. She said you discussed planning. We discussed making sure you had a will. I have one. I know that now. Did she ask about my paperwork before or after Paula came? After. He handed the pages back. She told me Paula was worried about you. Paula was worried that I hadn't consented to the visit. That's not what Natalie said. What did she say? She said you got angry and refused to answer basic questions. I answered Paula's questions. Then I ended the assessment. Jared stared at the floor. I need to talk to her. Yes. He reached for the workshop door. Jared, he turned. If she says the form means nothing, ask why your name was already on it. He nodded once and went inside. Their conversation began quietly. Then Natalie raised her voice. You told him you didn't know? I didn't know. You knew we needed a backup plan, not this kind. What did you think a backup plan meant? I thought you meant bills and emergency contacts. I'm trying to protect this family. From Dad, from what happens if he stops being reasonable. A chair moved across the kitchen floor. I stayed in the workshop. I wanted Jared to come back and tell me he had stopped it. I also knew that wanting him to choose me was part of how I'd stayed quiet for so long. I opened the job notebook to a clean page. At the top, I wrote one question. What has Natalie told Jared that she hasn't told me? Jared came back about 20 minutes later. He didn't sit down. He stood near the workbench with both hands in his pockets. She says she printed the form because Paula mentioned future planning. Paula didn't mention a conservatorship to me. I know. Did you ask why your name was on it? She said you'd trust me more than a stranger. That wasn't my question. She assumed I'd do it if it became necessary. Would you? He looked at me. Is it necessary? No. Then, no. That's not much of an answer. It's the answer I have right now. I closed the notebook. What has she told you? About what? Me. He shifted his weight. She thinks you're having trouble since Mom died. What kind of trouble? You isolate yourself. I work in the workshop. She says you forget conversations. Which conversations? The one about the mail. She said you asked where it was after she'd already put it on the counter. She gave me opened envelopes after I confronted her. Jared frowned. She didn't tell me they were opened. What else? He looked through the workshop window. She said, you've been making strange decisions with money. What decisions? I don't know. You repeated it. You must know what she meant. She said you paid the electric bill twice. I opened the desk drawer and removed the latest statement. One payment was reversed when she changed the billing preference. I paid it again after I secured the account. She didn't say that. I imagine not. He read the statement. The reversed payment and replacement were both listed on the first page. I thought you'd forgotten, he said. Did you ask me? No. Why not? I didn't want to embarrass you. Who would have been embarrassed? He put the statement on the desk. I should have asked. Yes. She made it sound like there were other things. What things? She said some customers had called because you weren't showing up on time. That one stopped me. Which customers? She didn't give names. I haven't missed a job. I'm telling you what she said. When? Over the last couple weeks. Before or after I refused the room. His eyes moved to mine. Mostly after. I wrote that down. Jared watched me. You don't have to record everything I say. I do if you're hearing things about me that aren't true. She's worried. She's building a reason. For what? You saw the form. He rubbed his forehead. I told her she can't use my name again. That's good. I mean it. I believe you. He looked relieved. I wasn't trying to reward him. I was telling the truth. He had owned one choice. It didn't fix the rest. The following morning, my phone rang while I was loading tools into the truck. The caller was a woman whose house I'd worked on several times. I was scheduled to replace her old electrical panel the next week. Dale, I'm sorry, but we're going with someone else. Did the estimate change your mind? No, the estimate was fair. Then what happened? She hesitated. I don't know how to say this. Say it plainly. Your daughter-in-law told me you were cutting back. I leaned against the truck. When did you speak to her? Yesterday. I called the house number because I couldn't reach your cell. What did she tell you? She said the family had concerns about you doing larger jobs. What concerns? Dale, I don't want to get involved. You're already canceling the work. I need to know why. There was a pause. She mentioned ladders. She said you'd mixed up some appointments. I haven't. I'm sure it was a misunderstanding. Did she say I was unsafe? Not exactly. What did she say exactly? She said she couldn't recommend that I let you work alone. I closed my eyes. The panel job would have paid several $100s after materials. More important, the customer had recommended me to 3 other people. I understand, I said. I'm sorry. Did Natalie call you, or did you call the house? I called. Thank you for telling me. After we hung up, I checked the house phone. The call history showed an incoming call the previous afternoon. It had lasted almost 7 minutes. I went inside. Natalie was at the kitchen table with her laptop. Why did you tell a customer not to hire me? She didn't look up. I didn't. You told her you couldn't recommend that I work alone. That isn't the same thing. It cost me the job. She called here asking questions. She called for me. You weren't home. You have my cell number. You don't answer when you're working. Then she could leave a message. Natalie closed the laptop. She asked whether you were still doing panel replacements. And I said you probably shouldn't be. Based on what? You work alone. You climb ladders. You've had balance issues. When? I've seen you catch yourself on things. I slipped on a wet step last winter. You almost fell. I didn't. That's the kind of denial I'm talking about. I put my phone on the table. You told Jared I missed appointments. He said that? Is it true? You forget things. Name one appointment I missed. She looked toward the hallway. You moved a service call the day Paula came. I called the customer first. You changed it at the last minute. That isn't missing it. You're splitting hairs. I'm separating facts. She pushed back her chair. You always have an explanation. Most competent adults do. Her mouth tightened. So now I'm calling you incompetent? You printed a petition saying it. I told you that wasn't real. The lost job is real. She stood. I was trying to keep you from getting hurt. You were trying to make another person doubt me. You don't know what you can handle anymore. I know what you won't handle again. What does that mean? You don't speak to my customers. If someone calls for me, you take a message. I'm not your secretary. Good. Then don't give advice. She picked up her laptop. You should be thanking me for caring. Put the customer's name on your list of things you've done for me. She walked into her office and shut the door. I called the electrical supply company. The panel I'd ordered was already on their delivery truck. They could take it back, but there would be a restocking charge. $140. I paid it. Then I drove to the canceled customer's house. I didn't go there to pressure her. I returned a folder containing the permit information and the photographs I'd taken during the estimate. She met me on the porch. You didn't have to bring these. They belong with the job. She held the folder against her chest. I feel terrible. You made a decision based on what you heard. Are you all right? Yes, I mean at home. I looked back at my truck. We're working through something. She nodded. I won't repeat what Natalie said. Thank you. As I stepped off the porch, she called after me. For what it's worth, you've never missed an appointment with us. That was useful, but it didn't restore the job. When I got home, Jared's truck was in the driveway. He and Natalie were arguing in their bedroom. I went to the workshop and put the return receipt in my notebook. A few minutes later, Jared came outside. She shouldn't have talked to your customer. No. She says she panicked because it was a panel job. She knows nothing about panel work. I told her that. I handed him the receipt. It cost me $140 to return the materials. He looked at the amount. I'll pay it. With what? My next check? Keep your money? Then why show me? Because concern has a price when you act on it without consent. He placed the receipt on the bench. She went too far. She's been going too far. I'm trying to get her to stop. That hasn't worked. He sat on the stool. She thinks if her parents renew, they'll be trapped there another year. That's their decision. She already reserved a moving truck. I looked at him. For where? She hasn't put a final address. Who paid for it? We did. How much? A little over $500. Why would you pay for a truck before there's somewhere to move? She was afraid the rates would go up. Do Bradley and Michelle know? They know a truck is reserved. Do they think it's bringing their furniture here? Jared stared at the floor. I don't know exactly what Nat told them. Then find out. They haven't given notice yet. Your mother-in-law said they have until the end of next month. He looked up. You called Michelle again? No. She told me during the first call. Jared rubbed his hands together. We can cancel the truck. Will you get the money back? Part of it. Cancel it. It's our money. Then stop using your money to create pressure on my answer. He stood. You think everything she does is manipulation now. She measured my room, packed my clothes, arranged an assessment, printed a petition, and cost me a job. I know. Do you? Yes. Then why are we still talking about whether her parents move in? Because they need help, and because you need her not to be angry. His face changed. That isn't fair. It's exactly what you've asked me to do. He took a step toward the door. We're having dinner with them next Friday. Where? Here. Who arranged that? Nat? Of course. She wants everybody to sit down and clear this up. Does she know my answer? Yes. Do they? He didn't answer. Jared. She says they understand it isn't settled. That meant no. He went back inside. I remained at the workbench and looked at the receipt. Until then, I'd been trying to protect my bedroom without breaking the family. I thought a clear enough boundary would restore the arrangement we'd had. There was no arrangement left to restore. Free housing had allowed every refusal to become a negotiation. My labor, my money, and my reputation had all become family resources. Even my ability to make decisions was being treated as a temporary obstacle. Keeping Bradley and Michelle out would only postpone the next demand. I unlocked the fireproof box and removed the green folder. Diane's handwritten page was still attached to the agreement. Beneath it was the paragraph that had seemed unnecessary when we signed. I read it twice. Then I set a blank sheet of paper on the desk. My objective was no longer to keep my room. It was to end the rent-free arrangement. I didn't write immediately. I read every page again. The agreement named Jared and Natalie as occupants. Diane and I were listed as owners. The rent was written as $0. The arrangement continued month to month until either side ended it in writing. The termination paragraph required 30 days' notice. It didn't require a reason. Diane had insisted on that paragraph because she understood something I had forgotten. Help needed an ending that didn't depend on everybody agreeing it was time. I placed the agreement beside the blank page. The supper was scheduled for Friday, April 10th. 30 days from that date would be Sunday, May 10th. I wrote a simple notice. The rent-free occupancy at the Redbud Lane house would end on May 10th. Jared and Natalie were to remove their property and return all keys and the garage remote by the deadline. I didn't mention Bradley or Michelle. I didn't mention the pamphlets, the mail, Paula, the petition, the canceled job, or the boxes. Those things explained my decision. They weren't necessary to exercise it. I read the notice aloud. It sounded colder when spoken. I changed one sentence that sounded like it had come from a courtroom. Then I made 2 clean copies. Our old printer still left a gray line down the page. I drove to an office supply store and printed the final version there. On the way home, I stopped for groceries. I bought eggs, coffee, bread, and a bottle of bourbon. Diane used to say that I only bought bourbon when I'd already made a decision and wanted to pretend I was still considering it. That evening, I waited until the house was quiet. I poured 1 glass and sat at the workshop desk. I didn't toast anything. I didn't make a speech to an empty room. I drank it slowly while I checked the dates one more time. Then I put the notice inside the green folder. I kept the folder in the fireproof box and locked it. The next morning, I called Tammy Campos. Tammy had rekeyed several houses after electrical work exposed damaged door hardware. She was licensed, dependable, and direct. Campos Locksmith. Tammy, this is Dale Quinn. Morning, Dale. What broke? Nothing yet. I need to schedule a whole house recce. How many exterior doors? Front, kitchen, and garage entry. Same key for all 3? Yes. When do you need it? Monday, May 11th. That's specific. It's the day after 2 occupants are supposed to return their keys. She was quiet for a moment. Are they tenants? Rent-free, month-to-month occupants? Will they be out? That's the expectation? I won't help you lock anyone out while they're still living there. I wouldn't ask. If their property is gone and they've surrendered possession, I can do it. If they haven't, call me before I drive over. That's fair. Do you want the garage keypad reset too? Yes. Any detached buildings? The workshop. Same key? No, I'll handle that one. She gave me a service window late Monday morning. I'll pencil it in, she said. Confirm with me the Friday before. I will. Everything all right? It will be handled. That wasn't what I asked. I know. She let it go. After the call, I wrote her appointment beneath the deadline in my notebook. The notice was prepared. The locksmith was booked. Neither changed what I had to do next. I still had to live with Jared and Natalie until supper. Then, after serving the notice, I had to live with their response for 30 days. I drove to the hardware store and bought a keyed lock set for the workshop. The old knob didn't lock. It never had. For years, the only reason to close the workshop door was weather. I removed the old knob and enlarged the latch opening. The new lock fit without much trouble. When I finished, I tested it from both sides. The latch seated cleanly. I put one workshop key on my truck ring. The spare went into the fireproof box. That afternoon, Natalie tried the door. I was inside sorting receipts when the knob moved once, then again. She knocked. I unlocked it. Why is this locked? Because I locked it. I can see that. She looked at the new hardware. Since when does the workshop need a lock? Since today. What are you keeping in here? My tools, my records, my work. Those were here yesterday. Yes. Then why the lock? I want the room private. Her eyes moved past me toward the desk. Is this because of the printer? It's because I've decided the workshop is private. What if there's an emergency? Call me. What if you aren't home? Call the fire department if there's a fire. She gave me a hard look. That isn't funny. I wasn't joking. You're locking parts of the property away from us. The workshop has never been part of your living space. We store things in here. Not anymore. She looked toward a shelf near the back wall. 2 plastic bins belonged to her. One contained holiday decorations. The other held old office equipment. I need those. I moved aside. Take them. Right now, that would be best. She stepped inside. I stayed near the door while she carried the first bin to the garage. She returned for the second. This is ridiculous, she said. You wanted better storage. Don't. She lifted the bin. Where am I supposed to put this? In the rooms you use. They're full. Then remove something. She carried the second bin out. Before leaving, she turned. Does Jared know you did this? I didn't ask him. Her expression changed at that answer. For years, I had explained every boundary to Jared first. I had made him the translator between my ownership and Natalie's feelings. This time, there was nothing to translate. I closed the door and locked it. 10 minutes later, Jared called. Why did you lock the workshop? Because it's private. She says you made her remove her things. I gave them back to her. Where are we supposed to put everything? Your rooms. We don't have room. You have 2 bedrooms. One is her office. That's how you chose to use it. He lowered his voice. Is this punishment? No. It feels like punishment. A closed door isn't punishment. It is when it's never been closed before. That's why you noticed it. He exhaled. Can I have a key? No. Why not? You don't need access. What if I need a tool? Ask. He went quiet. Dad, what are you doing? I'm working. You know what I mean? Yes. Are you planning something for Friday? I'm planning to attend supper in my own dining room. That's not an answer. It's the answer I'm giving. He hung up. The lock worked in a visible, practical way. My records stayed where I put them. Nobody entered the workshop while I was gone. It also gave Natalie something solid to point at. That evening, I heard her speaking to Michelle on the phone. She was in the living room. I was in the kitchen, washing a plate. He installed a lock, she said. I couldn't hear Michelle's answer. No, we don't have a key. Another pause. I don't know what he's hiding. I dried the plate and put it away. Natalie saw me in the doorway. I have to go, Mom. She ended the call. You could ask me directly, I said. I did, and I told you what's in there. You said tools and records. That's correct. What records? Mine. She placed her phone face down on the coffee table. This is getting out of control. A lock on a workshop? You're shutting us out of one detached room. You're documenting conversations. You called the courthouse. You're making copies of things with my name on them. You act like we're enemies. I'm acting like I need privacy. She stood. Mom and Dad are already nervous about Friday. Why? Because they feel unwelcome. Have they asked to live here? Not directly. Then what are they nervous about? She picked up her phone. They know you're upset. Did you tell them why? I told them there was tension. Did you tell them my bedroom isn't available? Her thumb stopped over the screen. We're discussing everything Friday. That wasn't my question. It isn't just your decision. Yes, it is. She stared at me. You keep saying that because you keep acting like it isn't true. She walked toward the hallway. I said, Natalie. She stopped but didn't turn. If you haven't told your parents the room is unavailable, you're letting them walk into that supper under a false belief. They know nothing is final. That's still not the truth. She turned then. What do you want me to say? That Dale refuses to help? That he has a whole house but won't share one room? That he'd rather watch my parents struggle? Tell them I didn't consent. Her face went still. You make everything sound so formal. Then use ordinary words. She went into the bedroom and closed the door. The next day, Jared canceled the moving truck. He showed me the cancellation email on his phone when he came home. We lost $200 of the deposit, he said. I'm sorry you lost it. You told me to cancel. I told you not to use a reservation to pressure my answer. He put the phone in his pocket. Nat is furious. I assumed. She thinks I chose you over her. You chose not to spend more money on a move with no destination. That's what I told her. Then you owned one reasonable choice. He leaned against the kitchen counter. I need you to give me something I can take back to her. No, not the bedroom. Something. What are you asking for? I don't know. More time. A possibility. Help finding another arrangement. I'll help your in-laws look at apartments if they ask me directly. With money? No. His mouth tightened. Then that won't feel like help to her. I'm not responsible for how free labor feels. You know what I mean? Yes. You want me to pay enough that nobody has to accept my answer. He looked away. I'm trying to keep my marriage together. I'm not asking you to leave it. She thinks I don't support her. Do you support what she's done? No. Have you told her that, without adding my name to the sentence? He didn't answer. I walked past him toward the workshop. Behind me, he said, She's going to push hard Friday. I know. She thinks if everybody's together, you'll soften. I opened the kitchen door. What do you think? He stood with both hands on the counter. I think you usually do. I went outside and locked the workshop behind me. On the desk, the green folder waited inside the fireproof box. For the first time, Natalie knew I was protecting something. She just didn't know what. Thursday morning, the workshop door shook hard enough to rattle the window. I was at the supply house. The security alert came through my phone while I was loading conduit into the truck. The camera above the workshop door showed Natalie pulling the knob. She stopped, looked up at the camera, and stepped back. The camera wasn't new. I had installed it years earlier, after someone stole tools from a neighbor's shed. Natalie knew it was there. She stared into it for several seconds. Then she walked toward the house. I checked the rest of the recording. She had come outside carrying a screwdriver and a flashlight. She'd tried the knob twice before pulling harder. I called her. She answered immediately. Why were you trying to enter the workshop? I needed the circuit tester. For what? The outlet in my office stopped working. Did you check the breaker? I don't know which one. You could have called me. I did. There was no missed call. No, you didn't. I was going to. After trying the lock, I needed a tool. You don't know how to use that tester. It has lights on it. That doesn't mean you know what they indicate. She lowered her voice. So, now I'm too incompetent to touch a tool? I said, You don't know how to use that one. You keep everything locked up, and then you leave. I'll check the outlet when I get home. I have work. Use another room. This is my office, and the workshop is mine. She hung up. When I returned, Jared was waiting in the driveway. He stood beside the workshop door while I unloaded the truck. What's with the camera? It's been there for years. You watched Natalie try the door. The camera sent an alert. She thinks you're spying on her. She was pulling on a locked door. She needed something. She needed a reason to get inside. Jared picked up a bundle of conduit and carried it to the rack. What do you think she was looking for? I don't know. Then why assume the worst? Because she brought a screwdriver. He set down the conduit. She said it was for the outlet. A screwdriver doesn't test an outlet. You know what I mean. I know she tried to enter after I told her the room was private. He looked at the new lock. Let me have a key. No, I'll keep it. She won't use it. No. Then you don't trust me either. That isn't what I said. It's what it means. You share a bedroom with someone who put your name on a petition without asking. His face tightened. She made a mistake. She's made several. And now you're punishing both of us. I finished carrying in the supplies. Did she tell you why she wanted the circuit tester? Her outlet is dead. Did she tell you she never called me? She said you weren't answering. Check my phone. I don't need to check your phone. Then stop treating both versions as equal. He stood in the doorway. I want to know what you're planning. About what? Friday. We're having supper. Nat thinks you're going to embarrass her. She packed my clothes. I know. She told a customer I wasn't safe. I know. She wrote my name on a conservatorship petition. I know, Dad. Then why is her embarrassment the emergency? He looked toward the house. Because I live with her. So do I. That's different. Yes. I own the place. He stepped back. There you go again. What response are you waiting for? I want you to say we're family before you say it's your house. I've spent 6 years saying it with utilities, repairs, and zero rent. We didn't ask you to keep score. No. You asked me not to notice. He walked inside without answering. I checked the office outlet from the breaker panel. The circuit had tripped. Before resetting it, I inspected the receptacle. A power strip held a printer, 2 monitors, a heater, and a small refrigerator. I unplugged the heater and reset the circuit. Natalie stood behind me. What caused it? Too much load. It's never done that before. The heater pushed it over. So I can't use my heater, not on that circuit with everything else. Can you add another outlet? Yes. When? I'm not adding one. She stared at me. Why not? Because I'm not changing the house for that office. You've changed things before. Yes. What is that supposed to mean? It means use the circuit as it is. You're refusing because you're angry. I'm refusing because the room already has safe electrical service. She followed me into the hallway. You're taking things away one at a time. I reset your breaker. The workshop, storage, repairs. I repaired the dryer 3 days ago after making me buy the part. It was your dryer load and your request. It belongs to the house. The dryer belongs to me. She laughed once. Of course it does. Yes. Everything belongs to you. We get it. You didn't used to resent that. I didn't used to have it thrown in my face. I went to the kitchen. 2 overnight bags sat near the garage door. Jared's blue duffel was on top. I recognized it from trips we used to take to Kentucky Lake. Where are you going? Mom and Dad's, Natalie said. Why? I don't feel comfortable here. Because the workshop is locked? Because you're acting unpredictable. You tried to force the lock. I tried to get a tool. You could have asked. I shouldn't have to ask permission for every little thing. Then buy your own tester. She picked up her bag. You hear yourself, right? Yes. Good. Jared came down the hall carrying a pillow. I looked at him. You're going too? For a couple of nights. Is that what you want? He glanced at Natalie. I think some space will help. Whose idea was it? Does that matter? It matters to me. I agreed. That was his answer. He carried the bags to the truck. Natalie returned for her laptop. Are you coming Friday? I asked. Yes. And your parents? Yes. What do they think this supper is about? Family decisions. Did you tell them I agreed to one? She zipped the laptop case. They think we're going to have a reasonable discussion. So, no. She lifted the case. You'll get your chance to speak. In my house. She looked at me for a long moment. We still live here? Then why are you leaving? Because I refuse to be intimidated. She walked outside. Jared came back for the garage remote he'd left on the counter. Dad, don't make this worse. I'm not keeping you here. You know what I mean. No, say it directly. He picked up the remote. Don't do anything Friday that can't be taken back. I looked at him. Did Natalie tell you I was planning something? She thinks you are? What do you think? I think you locked yourself in a workshop with paperwork. I work in a workshop with paperwork. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. He put the remote in his pocket. If you humiliate her in front of her parents, I'm leaving with her. You're leaving with her now. You know what I mean. Yes. His eyes moved toward the oak key rail. Diane's ring hung from the bottom hook. She would hate this, he said. She would hate a lot of it. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. He walked out. The truck backed down the driveway. Natalie's car followed. They took their house keys and the garage remote with them. They hadn't vacated. Their clothes, furniture, food, and mail remained. They were making sure I knew the house could go silent again. For a while, I stood in the kitchen. The refrigerator ran. The clock over the stove clicked forward. Someone had left one of the dining chairs pulled away from the table. I pushed it in. At 6, I made eggs and toast. I carried the plate to the table, then changed my mind and ate at the counter. Sitting in my usual place would have put Diane's empty chair across from me. My phone remained beside the sink. I checked it several times without hearing it ring. At 8, Bradley called. Dale, you got a minute? Yes. Natalie and Jared are here. I know. She says things got heated. They left before anything got heated. He was quiet. She thinks you don't want them in the house. They've lived here without rent for 6 years. That isn't what I asked. No, I haven't told them to leave. That was true until Friday. Bradley lowered his voice. Is tomorrow still a good idea? Yes. Michelle thinks we should give everybody time. Come to supper. Are you sure? Yes. What exactly are we discussing? That depends on what Natalie told you. She said there are decisions about the bedrooms and the future. Then she should explain those decisions at the table. Bradley waited. Dale, if we're creating a problem, say so. You aren't the person who created it. He didn't ask what that meant. All right, he said. We'll be there. After the call, I washed my plate. I went to the bedroom and opened the closet. The empty cardboard boxes were still in the garage, but I could picture my clothes inside them. I took the green folder from the workshop and carried it to the dining room. For several minutes, I sat where I would sit Friday. I imagined Jared on my right. Natalie would sit beside him. Bradley and Michelle would probably take the chairs across from me. I could end the plan for my bedroom with one direct refusal. Then, Jared and Natalie would come home. The utilities would stay in my name. Natalie would keep calling my customers and describing disagreement as decline. Jared would keep asking me to absorb the next demand so his marriage stayed quiet. The notice would cost me the version of family I'd been protecting. That version included coffee when something needed repair. It included supper when I made myself useful. It included a son who agreed with me in the workshop and defended his wife in the house. It was still my family. That was the price. My phone rang at 9:30. Jared. I answered. Are you all right? He asked. Yes, we're staying here tonight, I assumed. He waited. Do you want us to come home? That's your decision. You could ask. I could. Another silence. Dad, Nat says, if tomorrow goes badly, she's done. With what? Living there, trying with you. All of it. What are you saying? I'm saying I go with my wife. I know. You sound like you don't care. I care enough not to make you promise something you won't keep. He breathed into the phone. If you're planning to put us out, tell me now. We'll talk tomorrow. That means yes. It means I won't argue about my house while you're using your presence as the price. I'm not doing that. You called to tell me you'll leave if I don't soften. I called because I don't want to lose my father, then come tomorrow as my son, not as Natalie's messenger. He ended the call. I kept the phone in my hand for a while. Then I returned the green folder to the fireproof box. I could still tear up the notice before supper. I could unlock the workshop, offer Bradley and Michelle money for another apartment, and bring Jared home without forcing him to choose anything. I locked the box instead. The next morning, I called the lawyer who had handled Diane's estate. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. His assistant said he had 20 minutes available before lunch. I made copies of the occupancy agreement, the handwritten page, and the notice. The original stayed in the fireproof box. At 11:30, I carried the copies into his office. He read the agreement without talking. Then he read the notice. Who lives in the house now? My son and his wife. You live there too? Yes. They pay nothing? Zero rent. I pay the utilities. Have you ever changed the agreement? No. Did Diane sign before she died? Yes. The original has all 4 signatures. And you became sole owner after her estate was settled? Yes. He read the termination paragraph again. What are you uncertain about? Whether this does what it says. It does, even with no rent. The agreement defines the occupancy. It also gives the owner a written way to end it. So I hand them the notice Friday. Yes. Give each occupant a copy. Do they have to sign? No. Their signatures aren't required to make your notice exist. What if they refuse to leave? Then you don't turn off utilities or change locks. You use the next lawful process. I've already told the locksmith that. He looked up. You scheduled a locksmith for the day after the deadline, only if they've moved out and returned possession. That's the correct condition. I tapped the agreement. What about another adult moving in? He read Diane's handwritten page. This says prior written consent from the owners. There's one owner now. You. I haven't consented. Then the agreement doesn't allow an additional adult resident. That removed the last uncertainty. The paper meant what Diane had intended it to mean. It didn't transfer the house. It didn't create a punishment. It didn't give me authority over anyone's marriage or money. It let me end an arrangement I had agreed to continue month by month. The lawyer slid the copies back to me. You don't need a speech, Dale. I'm not planning one. You also don't need to prove they're bad people. I know. Are you prepared for your son to hear this as rejection? I looked at the notice. That's the part I can't verify on paper. No. He may stop speaking to me. He may. You could. He didn't tell me what to choose. That was why I trusted him. I paid for the consultation and left. In the parking lot, I put the papers in a plain envelope. The office had a metal trash can beside the door. I stood near it longer than I should have. The easier choice wasn't throwing the notice away. The easier, cruel choice was using everything else. I could bring out the conservatorship petition and read Natalie's notes in front of her parents. I could explain how she interfered with my customer. I could show the labels she'd put on my boxes. Bradley and Michelle would know exactly what their daughter had done. Jared would spend the entire supper defending her. The room would turn into a trial, and the notice would look like a verdict. That wasn't what the agreement was for. I didn't need to win every argument. I needed to stop the arrangement that made the arguments possible. I removed the petition copies and job notebook from the envelope. Those went into my truck lockbox. The envelope for supper held only 3 things: the signed agreement copy, Diane's handwritten page, and 2 copies of the termination notice. I drove home. Jared's truck was back in the driveway. He was sitting on the rear step with a paper cup of coffee. Natalie's car wasn't there. I parked beside him and carried my papers into the workshop. When I returned, he held out the second coffee. "I brought you one. I took it. Thank you." I sat beside him. For a minute, neither of us spoke. He looked tired. He was still wearing the shirt he'd had on the night before. "Nat went shopping with her mom," he said. "For supper?" "Yes." "Are you staying here tonight?" "I don't know. That's your choice." He turned the cup between his hands. "You keep saying that." "Because it is. It doesn't feel like it. What part isn't yours? If I stay here, she thinks I'm taking your side. If you go with her, I don't assume you've taken hers." "Yes, you do. I assume you're avoiding a fight." He stared out at the yard. "That sounds worse." "It isn't better or worse. It's what you've been doing." He drank some coffee. "Do you want me to leave her?" "No." "Then what do you want?" "I want you to stop making me responsible for what happens when you won't disagree with your wife." He looked at me. "I disagree with her all the time, in private. That still counts. Not when you ask me to behave as if you agreed with her." His thumb pressed into the side of the paper cup. "She says you're going to use Friday to take control." "Of what?" "The house. Everything. I already control the house. That's what scares her. Why? Because she doesn't have anywhere else. You both have income. Not enough for what places cost now. You've had 6 years without rent. We had bills. So did I." He looked away. "I'm not asking you for money. You've been asking me to continue giving housing. That isn't the same. It feels different because no payment moves between us. The cost still exists." He crumpled the rim of the cup. "Can you give us more time?" "More time for what?" "To get steady." "What does steady mean?" "A real job for me. Savings. A plan." "You've had all 3 at different points. Things happened. Things will keep happening." His eyes moved toward the workshop. "Is that why you've been locking papers up?" "I've always locked important papers in the fireproof box. Nat thinks you're preparing something. She thinks many things." "Are you?" "Yes." He turned fully toward me. "What?" "I'll discuss it tonight. Why not now?" "Because your wife called the meeting and her parents are coming under whatever understanding she gave them." "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Make it sound like a trap." "Did she tell them my answer about the bedroom?" "She said they know nothing is settled. That isn't what I asked." He stood. "I'm not doing another question where you've already decided my answer is wrong. Ask them yourself before supper." "Why?" "Because you need to know what your wife promised. She didn't promise anything. You don't know that." He took several steps toward his truck, then stopped. "Are you trying to turn me against her?" "No. It feels like you are. I'm asking you to obtain one fact." "What fact?" "Whether Bradley and Michelle believe I consented." His face went still. "Did you tell them you didn't?" "No." "Why not?" "Because Natalie said she would." He looked toward the house. "You should have told them." "Yes." "Then part of this is on you." "Yes." That answer surprised him. I stood and threw my empty cup in the workshop trash. I waited because I didn't want to expose her. That allowed her version to stand. "What version?" "That's the fact you need to ask about." He took out his phone, then he put it away. "I'll talk to Nat first." "You always do." He left before noon. Natalie returned around 2 with grocery bags and a bunch of yellow flowers. Michelle was with her. They carried everything into the kitchen. I was replacing the weather seal around the back door. Michelle greeted me carefully. "Big supper tonight, so I hear." "We brought too much food." "That happens here." She held a pie box against her chest. "Bradley's looking forward to talking." "What does he think we're discussing?" Natalie set a grocery bag on the counter. Mom, would you put the flowers in water? Michelle looked between us. I assume we're discussing options. For your apartment? I asked. For all of us. What options did Natalie give you? Natalie began removing vegetables from the bag. We're not doing this while Mom's holding a pie. I can put it down, Michelle said. No, Mom, you don't need to be in the middle. Michelle set the box on the table anyway. I believe I'm already in the middle. I looked at her. Did Natalie tell you I agreed to give up a bedroom? Natalie turned. We said we would discuss this at supper. I'm asking what your mother knows. Michelle looked uncomfortable. She said there was a room that might become available. Did she say whose room? Dale, Natalie said. Michelle touched the edge of the pie box. I thought you were considering spending more time in the workshop. I spend time there now. I mean staying there. That's enough, Natalie said. No, Michelle replied. It's a fair question. She looked at me. Are you considering it? I could have answered completely. Instead, I said, we'll discuss it when Bradley and Jared are here. Michelle nodded, but she didn't look reassured. Natalie carried the flowers to the sink. You could have just said yes or no. So could you days ago? Michelle left soon after. Natalie remained to prepare supper. She put the yellow flowers in Diane's blue pitcher and set them in the center of the table. I watched from the doorway. Use another vase, I said. She stopped arranging the stems. Why? Diane used that pitcher for water. It's a pitcher, I know. She pulled the flowers out. Water dripped onto the table. What do you want me to use? There's a clear vase above the refrigerator. She found it and moved the flowers. Then she washed the blue pitcher and returned it to its shelf. That was a small boundary, but she obeyed it. It didn't change the envelope in the workshop. By 5, the kitchen smelled like roasted chicken and onions. Natalie used Diane's good serving bowls. She set 5 places at the expanded table. My folding chair wasn't there. The repaired chair stood in its usual place. Jared returned at 5:30. He went straight to the bedroom with Natalie. Their door closed. I heard their voices but couldn't make out the words. At 5:45, I confirmed Tammy's appointment for May 11th. I told her the situation was not final until the keys were surrendered. Call me if that changes, she said. I will. I ended the call and put my phone away. Then I took the envelope from the workshop. I placed it on the empty chair beside mine and covered it with the newspaper. The doorbell rang at 6. Bradley and Michelle stood together on the porch. Bradley held a bottle of wine. Michelle carried the pie she had brought earlier. I opened the door and let them in. Natalie came from the kitchen smiling. Jared followed her, but he wouldn't look at me. Everyone was present. Everyone still believed the evening was about convincing me to surrender one room. Natalie took the wine from Bradley and set it on the counter. We can open this later, she said. Michelle put the pie in the refrigerator. I took their coats to the front closet. Bradley's jacket went beside mine. I had restored enough space for both. As I returned to the dining room, I saw my bedroom door standing open. 2 cardboard boxes were stacked against the dresser. Natalie had rebuilt them. The top box contained shirts from my closet. A fresh label on the side read, Dale, Workshop. I stopped in the hallway. Jared came up behind me. Not now, he said quietly. When? After dinner. Who packed those? He didn't answer. I looked at him. She was trying to show how little space you'd need. She went into my room again. I told her not to. Before or after she did it. Dad, please. Natalie called from the kitchen. Everything's getting cold. I walked into the bedroom and closed the box flaps. I left the boxes where they were. When I returned, everyone had taken a seat. The yellow flowers were back in Diane's blue pitcher. Natalie had waited until I was outside greeting her parents, then switched the vase. I didn't move them. I sat down. For the first few minutes, nobody discussed housing. Bradley talked about traffic near his apartment. Michelle complimented the chicken. Jared ate quickly without looking up. Natalie kept offering food. More potatoes, Dale? No, thank you. Bradley? I'm good. She smiled, but her hands kept moving. She straightened the serving spoon. She wiped a drop of water from the pitcher. She adjusted her napkin twice. Michelle finally put down her fork. We should probably talk before everybody gets tired. Natalie nodded. That's why we're here. Bradley looked at me. I want to say first that we're not asking anybody to make a permanent commitment. I glanced at Natalie. What commitment are you asking for? He seemed surprised by the question. Just a place to land. For how long? 3 months, maybe 4. Michelle said. We'd contribute, of course. To what? Utilities, groceries. Natalie leaned forward. We don't need to work out every detail tonight. We need to work out the first one, I said. She looked at me. Which is? Who told them they could move in? Bradley sat back. Natalie said the family was working on it. That isn't permission. We understood there was an adjustment needed, Michelle said. What adjustment? She glanced toward the hallway. Your sleeping arrangement. There it was. Who told you I was changing it? Natalie answered. We discussed using the workshop. You discussed it. I refused. Michelle's face changed. You refused? Yes. Natalie put down her fork. You said no before hearing a full plan. I said no after finding you measuring my bedroom. Bradley looked at her. You measured it? To see whether their furniture would fit. You told us Dale was considering it, Michelle said. He was upset. I thought he needed time. I looked at Michelle. Did she tell you I agreed? She said Jared had talked to you. Everyone looked at Jared. He stopped chewing. I did talk to Dad. What did he say? Bradley asked. Jared swallowed. He said no. Bradley's expression hardened. You knew? I knew he was against it at first. At first? I asked. Jared looked at me. Dad, Natalie's parents need the room more than you do. The sentence came out flat. He sounded tired, not angry. That almost made it worse. My room, I said. You have the workshop. I work in the workshop. You could make it comfortable. It is comfortable for work. Natalie reached for Jared's hand. This is what we've been trying to explain. Mom and Dad need somewhere temporary. You have more space than one person needs. I'm not one person in an empty house. No, you're living with family, and family pack my clothes. She pulled her hand away from Jared. I packed 2 boxes, twice. Michelle looked toward the hallway. Are those the boxes in your bedroom? Yes. I thought you packed them, she said. I didn't. Bradley turned to Natalie. You said he'd started moving things. I said the room was being prepared. By you, because somebody had to begin. Begin what? I asked. She looked directly at me. Making this work, without my consent. You keep using that word like we're strangers. It matters more with family. Jared shook his head. This is going nowhere. No, Natalie said. We're not leaving until there's an answer. There is an answer, I said. She leaned back. You're really going to make my parents renew an apartment they can't afford because you won't sleep 50 feet away? I'm not making them do anything. Their deadline is coming. I know. You know? And you've done nothing. I offered to help them look for apartments. With no money, with time. Bradley held up one hand. We didn't ask you for money. Thank you, I said. Natalie looked at him. Dad, that isn't the point. It is part of the point, he replied. Michelle folded her napkin. I need a clear answer. Did Dale ever agree to us staying here? Natalie looked at Jared. Jared looked at his plate. I answered. No. Michelle closed her eyes briefly. Bradley pushed his chair away from the table. We shouldn't be having this conversation. Please sit down, Natalie said. You told us he needed help adjusting. He does. You said the workshop was practically an apartment. It could be. You said this house would solve both problems. It can. Bradley looked at me. I'm sorry. You didn't know. No, we didn't. Natalie's chair scraped against the floor. Can everybody stop acting like I lied? Michelle looked at her. You didn't tell us he said no. I told you he was resistant. That's a different word for the same answer, Bradley said. He's been resistant to everything lately. I reached under the newspaper and removed the envelope. Natalie saw it. What's that? I placed the signed agreement on the table. Jared recognized it first. Is that Mom's paper? Yes. He looked at Natalie. She stared at the signatures. I put Diane's handwritten page on top. Your mother left one rule about this house. Jared read the first line silently. Natalie said, We know about the agreement. Then you know what the rule says. Bradley leaned forward but didn't touch the paper. What rule? No additional adult resident without the owner's prior written consent. Michelle looked at me. Did Diane write that? Yes. Natalie crossed her arms. Diane is gone. Nobody moved. I kept my voice level. Yes, she is. So the situation has changed, the ownership changed, the rule didn't. You're the only owner now. That's right. Then you can change it. I can. I haven't. She looked at Jared. Say something. He was still looking at his mother's handwriting. Dad has the right to say no, he said. You brought us here to convince him. I thought he'd listen. He did listen, Bradley said. He said no. Natalie pressed both hands against the table. This agreement was for when we first moved in. It was supposed to protect everybody. It still does, I said, from my parents, from anyone becoming a resident without written consent. Michelle touched Bradley's arm. We're not moving here. Natalie turned to her. Mom, no. We were told this was being arranged. It was, not with the owner. The belief at the table had changed. Bradley and Michelle had arrived expecting to discuss dates and furniture. Now they understood there had never been permission. That ended the plan for my bedroom. It didn't end the larger problem. I turned the agreement to the second page. There's another term you both signed. Jared looked up. What term? The occupancy is month to month. We know, Natalie said. The owner can end it with 30 days written notice. Her face lost color. I removed the two notices from the envelope. One went in front of Jared, the other went in front of Natalie. This is your written notice. The rent-free occupancy ends May 10th. Nobody spoke. The refrigerator started running in the kitchen. Jared read the page from top to bottom. Then he read it again. You're putting us out. I'm ending the arrangement. On Mother's paper. On the agreement all four of us signed. Natalie didn't pick up her copy. You planned this? Yes. How long? Long enough to verify it. She looked toward the workshop. That's what you locked away. The documents were already there. You sat through dinner knowing you were going to do this. I sat through dinner waiting for you to tell your parents the truth. I did tell them the truth. Bradley pushed his chair closer to the table. No, you didn't. She looked at him. I was trying to help you. You told us Dale was considering a change. He should have considered it. That isn't the same. Jared put down the notice. Did you already decide before I called last night? Yes, so nothing I said mattered. It mattered. It didn't change the decision. His eyes reddened, though he didn't cry. You chose a contract over your son. No. I used the contract because my son wouldn't accept my answer without one. He stood. Natalie stood with him. This is unbelievable, she said. You have 30 days. We have nowhere to go. You have income and a month to arrange housing. You know Jared's work isn't steady. I know. You're abandoning him. I'm ending free housing. That's abandonment. Michelle spoke quietly. No, it isn't. Natalie turned on her. Whose side are you on? I'm not choosing sides. We were never entitled to his bedroom. You're just embarrassed. I am embarrassed. Bradley nodded. So am I. Natalie picked up the notice and folded it in half. Fine. You want us gone? We'll go. Jared remained beside his chair. He hadn't touched his water. I looked at him. You have until May 10th. The utilities stay on. Your rooms remain yours until then. How generous, Natalie said. That's the agreement? She walked into the hallway. A moment later, I heard cardboard slide across the bedroom floor. Michelle rose. We should leave. Bradley picked up his jacket from the closet. Neither touched the pie or the wine. At the front door, Bradley held out his hand. I shook it. We'll handle our own housing, he said. I know. Michelle hugged Natalie. Natalie kept her arms at her sides. Then they left. Jared stood in the dining room with the notice in his hand. Natalie waited by the garage door. Are you coming? She asked. He looked at me once. Then he followed his wife out. Their keys and garage remote went with them. The two notices had been delivered in front of everyone, and the 30 days had begun. I cleared the table by myself. Natalie had left the chicken uncovered. I put it in the refrigerator and washed Diane's serving bowls. The flowers remained in the blue pitcher. I moved them to the clear vase, dried the pitcher, and returned it above the refrigerator. Then I unpacked my clothes again. The next morning, a delivery truck stopped in front of the house. The driver opened the rear door and showed me 4 large boxes, 2 lamps, and a rolled rug. Delivery for Bradley and Michelle Powers. They don't live here. This is the address I have. Who arranged it? He checked his phone. Natalie Quinn. I'm not accepting it. He looked toward the house. Can I leave it in the garage? No. I'll need to call her. That's fine. He made the call from the driveway. A moment later, my phone rang. Natalie. Why are you refusing the boxes? Your parents aren't residents. It's temporary storage. The agreement requires my written consent for additional adult residents. They're boxes, not adults. They're part of the move you were told isn't happening. Their apartment needs them cleared out for an inspection. Send them back there. The driver will charge another fee. That's between you and the driver. You're doing this to humiliate me. I'm declining a delivery. She hung up. The truck left with everything still inside. That was the first practical consequence, after the supper. A promise made without my consent no longer entered the house, simply because canceling it was inconvenient. Bradley called that afternoon. Those were our boxes. I know. We didn't know Natalie was sending them. She used your names. I told the driver to return them. Good. He was quiet. Michelle and I renewed the apartment. At the higher rent? Yes. I'm sorry about the increase. We can manage it. Do you need help moving the boxes back upstairs? No. We need to handle it ourselves. That was different from refusing help out of pride. He was removing me from an obligation I had never accepted. Before ending the call, he said, "We should have spoken to you directly." Yes. We believe Natalie because she's our daughter. I understand. That doesn't make it your fault. No. He thanked me for answering and hung up. Jared returned to the house Sunday evening. Natalie came with him. They carried their overnight bags to the bedroom. Neither greeted me. For the next week, we lived around each other. Jared left early for work. Natalie kept her office door closed. They bought separate groceries and stopped using the coffee I made. The house was quieter with them present than it had been when they left. On Wednesday, Jared placed a sheet of apartment listings on the kitchen counter. "Everything decent wants a deposit," he said. "I know. First month too." "Yes. You've made it hard for us to save." I looked at him. "How?" "We've been helping with things here. Name one bill you paid last month." His jaw moved. "We buy groceries. For yourselves. Sometimes for everybody. Then include those receipts when you calculate what free housing cost you." He picked up the listings. "You've wanted us gone for years." "No. You had the notice ready. I wanted the arrangement to end after your wife packed my bedroom. You keep blaming her. I'm describing what happened. You could have given us more time. What would change? I could find steady work. You've been trying. So now you're punishing me for losing my job. I gave you 6 rent-free years after you lost it." He pushed the paper into his back pocket. "Mom would never have done this. Your mother wrote the agreement. She didn't expect you to use it against me. She expected all of us to follow it." He walked out. That conversation cost more than the canceled panel job. I could replace money. I couldn't make Jared stop using Diane's memory as a door back into the old arrangement. The following Saturday, Michelle came to help them pack. Bradley stayed at their apartment waiting for the returned boxes. I was in the garage when Michelle carried out a lamp. "Where does this go?" she asked. "Ask Jared." He came through the kitchen. "Truck," he said. She placed it beside the tailgate. Natalie followed with a box of office supplies. "We haven't signed anywhere yet," she said. "You have 2 weeks," I replied. "I know the date." Michelle looked at her. "Did the apartment on Peacher's Mill call back? They want more proof of income. Your father can help with that. I don't need Dad fixing this." Michelle's face tightened. "We're trying to help you move. After taking Dale's side." "Nobody took his side. You renewed your lease the next morning, because we were never moving here. You could have waited. For what? Dale to change his mind? He has more house than he needs." Jared came back into the garage. "Stop, Nat." She turned to him. "Don't start." Michelle set down another box. "You told us this house would eventually be yours." Jared stopped. "What?" Natalie looked at her mother. "That isn't what I said." "It is." "No, I said it would probably stay in the family. You said Dale had already talked about leaving it to you and Jared." Jared looked at me. "Did you?" "No." "Ever?" "No." Natalie placed the office box on the floor. "We're your only family." "That doesn't make a promise," I said. "You told me Mom wanted the house kept in the family. I said she loved this house. That's the same idea." "No." Jared's face had gone pale. "You told your parents we were getting the house?" I said eventually. "Based on what?" "Based on common sense." "Whose common sense?" "Jared, don't do this in front of them. You did it in front of them." Michelle picked up her purse. "I'm going home." "Mom?" "No." "You made us believe Dale was preparing to step aside. You let us plan around that. I was trying to create a solution. You were spending something that wasn't yours. Michelle left. Jared remained beside the open truck. Natalie went into the house and slammed the kitchen door. He looked at me. Did she ever ask you about leaving us the house? Once, after your mother died. What did you say? I said I wasn't discussing my death while I was learning to live alone. And that was it? Yes. He sat on the truck's lowered tailgate. I believed her. I know. I thought you changed your mind. You didn't ask? No. He looked toward the house. I keep not asking. I didn't answer for him. 3 days later, Jared signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment across town. He showed me the address because the rental office needed his prior residence. I can pay the deposit, I said. The offer came out before I had time to examine it. He shook his head. No. You're sure? Yes. Is Natalie paying part? We both are. All right, he folded the application. We'll handle it. That was the first time he refused my money without using the refusal as an accusation. They began moving the following weekend. I helped carry furniture, but I didn't pay for the truck. I didn't repair the bookcase Natalie cracked on the stairs. When she asked if I had wood glue, I told her where to buy it. By Saturday, May 9th, both bedrooms were empty. Natalie wiped down her office. Jared swept their old bedroom. They took the food they had bought and left mine. The garage wall appeared again as boxes disappeared. Jared carried the last plastic bin to the truck. That's everything. Check the attic. We did. The bathroom cabinet, empty. Natalie stood by the kitchen door holding her purse. We still have until tomorrow. Yes. So we're early. Yes. She seemed to want credit for it. I didn't deny her the fact. You removed your property before the deadline. She nodded once. They kept the keys and garage remote because Tammy's appointment was Monday. Jared agreed to return everything then. On Monday morning, Bradley and Michelle arrived in their car. They had helped unload the apartment and came back with Jared and Natalie for the handover. Tammy pulled into the driveway 10 minutes later. Her van had the company name printed on both sides. She stepped out carrying a tool case. Everybody out? Yes, I said. She looked at Jared and Natalie. Property removed? Jared answered. Yes. Keys being surrendered voluntarily? Yes. Natalie reached into her purse. She removed her house key and placed it on the hood of Tammy's van. Jared added his key. Then he took the garage remote from his truck and set it beside them. Bradley and Michelle stood near the driveway. Nobody spoke. Tammy picked up the keys. All access accounted for? That's everything, Jared said. She handed the old keys to me and went to work. She changed the front lock first, then the kitchen door and garage entry. I stood nearby while she keyed all three alike. At the garage keypad, she cleared the old code. Choose a new one, she said. I entered one Jared didn't know. Tammy tested it twice. Then she disabled the remote Jared had returned. This won't open the door now. She handed it back to him. He looked at the useless remote before placing it in his pocket. Tammy gave me 2 new keys. You want both? One is a spare. She put the second in a sealed envelope. I paid her. Then she tested every new lock with me watching. Each door opened and closed cleanly. When she packed her tools, the old access was gone. Natalie stood beside her car. So that's it. Yes, I said. She looked at Jared. I'll be in the car. She didn't apologize. She didn't thank me for the years in the house. She got into the passenger seat and shut the door. Bradley walked over. We'll give you some room. He and Michelle returned to their car. Jared remained in the driveway. The recade kitchen door stood closed behind me. He held the disabled remote in one hand. I blamed you, he said. I know. I used your patience because I didn't want to confront her. I waited. She'd say something was already arranged, and I'd come ask you to endure it. It was easier than telling her no. Yes, I'm sorry. I looked at the new lock. I hear you. He nodded. He had admitted it after the consequence landed, not before. That mattered. It still didn't earn him a key. I didn't offer one. Jared looked toward Natalie's car. I should go. All right. Can I call you? Yes. He nodded and walked away. Bradley raised one hand from his car before they followed. Michelle did the same. I went inside and locked the kitchen door with the new key. The house sounded different without their belongings. The empty rooms carried every noise farther. When the refrigerator stopped running, I could hear the wall clock from the hallway. I checked both bedrooms. The room Natalie had used as an office had marks where her desk rubbed the wall. A handful of pushpins remained near the window. Their bedroom smelled like the cleaner she used on the furniture. My room was exactly as I had left it. The photograph of Diane and me stood on the dresser. My work shirts hung in the closet. No tape marked the floor. I closed the door halfway and went to the workshop. Tammy's sealed spare key went into the fireproof box. The other stayed in my pocket. For 3 days, Jared didn't call. I didn't call him either. On Thursday morning, my phone rang while I was replacing a porch outlet. "Are you busy?" he asked. "I'm working. I can call later." "What do you need?" "Nothing. I waited," he said. "I thought maybe we could get coffee sometime." "Saturday morning? That works." We met at a diner near the river. He was already seated when I arrived. There were 2 cups on the table, but he hadn't ordered for me. "I didn't know if you still take cream," he said. "I don't." I thought so. The server poured coffee. We talked about his warehouse shifts and a panel replacement I had scheduled. For almost 20 minutes, neither of us mentioned the house. Then he put both hands around his cup. "The apartment's okay." "Good. The neighbors are loud. You'll learn their schedule." He smiled a little. "Nat wants to buy shelves. She knows where to find some." He laughed once, then stopped. "Sorry, it was funny." He looked relieved. "Dad, I meant what I said in the driveway. I know. I should have stopped her before it reached that point." "Yes." I kept thinking I could calm her down later. That was easier than disagreeing at the time. "Yes." "Is it different now?" "I'm trying." That wasn't proof, but it was more honest than a promise. "Does she still think I'm incompetent?" "No." "Did you ask her directly?" "Yes." "What did she say?" "She said you were being stubborn, not confused." "I can live with stubborn." He turned the cup slowly. "She isn't ready to apologize. Then she shouldn't. You don't want one." "Not if she's saying it to make you comfortable." He nodded. When the check came, Jared picked it up. "I've got this." "You don't have to." "I know." I let him pay. The next week, Natalie sent me a text. "The outlet behind our couch is warm. Can you come look at it?" I read it twice. Then I called instead of answering by text. "Is the outlet still warm?" "Yes." "Unplug everything from it." We did. "Call the landlord's emergency number. They said someone can come tomorrow. Then don't use it tonight." There was a pause. "You aren't coming?" "No, you're an electrician, and you have a landlord. It would take you 10 minutes. It might. You still need the person responsible for the apartment to handle it." She exhaled into the phone. "Fine." The next day, Jared told me the landlord had replaced the outlet. Nobody got hurt. Nothing burned. I helped without becoming their free repair service. Later that month, Bradley and Michelle invited me to supper. Their apartment looked the same as it had before. The rolled rug from the rejected delivery lay beneath their coffee table. Bradley showed me the renewed lease. "I wanted you to see we handled it. You didn't need to show me, I know." The rent had increased. They had adjusted their budget and canceled a storage unit they didn't need. Michelle served meatloaf at their small dining table. "Natalie still says we abandoned her," she said. Bradley shook his head. "We refused to move into a house where we weren't invited." "That was the right decision," I said. Michelle looked embarrassed. "I should have asked you before we packed anything." "Yes." I believed what I wanted to believe. We ate without turning the meal into another hearing. When I left, Bradley walked me to my truck. "Do you think you and Jared will be all right?" "I don't know yet. He seems different. Different has to last." Bradley nodded. "I suppose it does." The following Saturday, Jared came to Redbud Lane. He rang the bell. For most of his adult life, he had opened the door with his own key. Watching him wait on the porch felt strange. I let him in. "Coffee?" I asked. "Sure." He remained in the kitchen while I made it. He didn't walk down the hallway or check his old room. We sat at the table. "I got offered full-time hours," he said. "That's good. It isn't a promotion, same work, more shifts. Steady is steady." He smiled. "Yeah." He looked at Diane's ring on the key rail. "Nat and I had a fight about the house." "What kind of fight?" "She said if you just let her parents move in, none of this would have happened." "What did you say?" "I said she was skipping the part where she never asked." I waited. "She told me I was taking your side again." "What did you say?" "I told her it wasn't a side. It was a fact. That was an observable change." "How did that go?" "Badly." "You're still married?" "Yes." "Then you survived one disagreement." He looked into his coffee. I should have learned that earlier. Before leaving, he asked whether any mail had arrived for him. One envelope. I handed it to him. Thanks. He didn't ask for a key. 2 months passed before Natalie came back to the house. Jared called first. Would you be willing to have supper with both of us? Here, if that's all right. What does Natalie want from the visit? To talk. About housing? No. Money? No. Repairs? No. Then Sunday at 6. They arrived together and rang the bell. Natalie carried a covered dish. Jared held a bag of bread. She waited until I invited them inside. The clear vase held yellow flowers on the table. She had brought them already arranged. I didn't use the pitcher, she said. I see that. She set the dish near the stove. During supper, she was polite but uncomfortable. She asked about my work. I asked about the apartment. After we cleared the plates, she placed an envelope beside my hand. Inside was $140. What's this? The restocking fee. I looked at her. I shouldn't have spoken to your customer. No, I thought I was protecting you. You were creating evidence for something you wanted. She looked down. I know that now. Do you? Yes. What about the petition? I destroyed the files. That doesn't undo printing them? No. What about telling your parents this house would become yours? She took a breath. I assumed Jared would inherit it. That isn't yours to promise. I know. It wasn't a complete apology. She still described several choices as assumptions instead of decisions. But she repaid a cost without asking for anything in return. She came into the house only after being invited. She didn't enter the hallway or touch the blue pitcher. I kept the envelope. That didn't restore her access. It acknowledged one debt. As they prepared to leave, Jared asked, "Could we do this again? Not every week, once a month? We can try that." Natalie put on her coat. "Would you ever come to our apartment?" "Yes, if you invite me for supper. Not to fix anything." I understood. The monthly meals continued. Some were at my house. Some were at their apartment. Bradley and Michelle joined us twice. Nobody received a key. Nobody moved back. When Natalie's dishwasher leaked, she called the landlord. When Jared needed help comparing 2 job offers, he asked me directly and made his own decision. Sometimes Jared called without needing advice. We talked about weather, work, or something he'd seen on television. Those calls mattered because they ended without a task. The first time he asked whether I was lonely, I told him the truth. Sometimes. He didn't offer to move back. He said, "Do you want company Saturday?" Yes. That was enough. I kept paying my own utilities and repairing my own house. Jared and Natalie paid rent at their apartment. Bradley and Michelle managed the increase at theirs. The $140 stayed in my desk until I used it to replace the worn weather stripping around the front door. I never returned the free housing, repair-on-demand service, garage code, or authority over my bedroom. If you stayed with me this far, leave a comment with what you would have done, and subscribe if you want to hear another story like mine. One Sunday evening, Jared and Natalie finished supper and carried their dishes to the sink. Natalie washed, Jared dried. Neither asked where anything belonged. They remembered. At the door, Jared hugged me. "We'll call next week." "All right." Natalie held up the empty clear vase. "I'll bring this back next time. Keep it until then." They walked to their car. I locked the front door and checked the garage entry. The new code still worked. The workshop remained private, with the spare key sealed inside the fireproof box. My bedroom door was open. The lamp beside the bed cast a warm strip of light across the hallway. Diane's photograph stood on the dresser, and every shirt in the closet was mine. I took the new key from my pocket, walked into the kitchen, and hung the single new house key on Diane's oak key rail, while my reclaimed bedroom door stood open behind me.